How can I turn off the notifications?
Oh, on the computer, right click on Teams and just say quit and it'll completely go away.
I don't have Teams open.
Go down to the lower right corner and open up the lower right other corner. There should be like your toolbar down there, like a little up arrow or something like that. The Teams icon should be in there somewhere. And if you right click it and say quit, it should go away.
Sign out?
Oh, I'll type something from there.
Yeah, sign out if she were.
Yep, I don't see anything popping up.
Okay, now it's not going away.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. All right.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the Summer 2022 Student Innovation Project Showcase. I'm Dr. Valenzuela. I'm the Art Direction Professor here at UAT. I'd like to welcome all of the faculty members, the SMEs, the subject matter experts. They are the full-time faculty members that helped each student on their journey to the execution of their Student Innovation Project. Thank you very much for all of your support through all of the rounds and presentations and updates and meetings and endless nights and hours all the way to the bitter end. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Jeanette, for all of your support as well. It's a team effort, so I appreciate all of the faculty that helped to contribute to this event. Also, thank you to the executive committee, all of the staff members for all of your assistance. It's a team effort to put on a show. And of course, thank you to all of the students who worked so hard over the last 3-4 months, sometimes even years, to get to this point on celebrating your day so that way you can showcase your project here with the UAT family. And also welcome to all of the special guests, family, friends, parents who joined us so that way you can watch your child, your young adult, present their project so that way they can showcase a culmination of everything that they've worked on. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Student Innovation Project, it's a long-term project where we ask each student to come up with a tech-based product or service that they have to pitch to their SMEs and get it approved. Now the trick is that the idea has to be innovative. That means that each project has to show some type of unique feature, mechanic, or ability so that way they can contribute to their industry. And the SMEs work alongside each student to ensure that this idea is executed through a minimal viable prototype. So an MVP is what you'll see today. It is the culmination again of the student putting forth all of their skill set, their knowledge, the information that they've learned throughout their study here at UAT, so that way they can put together a presentation for you to see. And not only are these projects meant to be approved, but they also have to go through a series of rounds where they have to showcase updates. So that way the SMEs can guide the student if there's any challenges, which there are many. So that way they can get to the point where they can provide a minimal viable prototype. And the goal ultimately is for the student to perhaps continue with that idea after graduation. A lot of these ideas have a lot of marketability and they can become businesses, products that they can license out, even patents. So we definitely look for ideas that students can pursue after graduation. So thank you to the students for all of your hard work throughout this entire semester and also for hanging in there. I know that it's a lot of work, but it certainly will pay off because anything worth doing is hard, but it's usually done with passion, and I certainly appreciate all of your efforts. So again, thank you for being here. I do want to go over a few logistical information. We do have an agenda. Each presentation is 10 minutes, a 5-minute video, 5-minute Q&A. The Q&A is only for the SMEs, the subject matter experts. Any faculty member is able to ask or comment on any of the presentations. I do ask that the general audience please post their questions via Zoom, so that way the student can be able to respond to those questions. We've run a very tight agenda, so unfortunately we don't have a lot of time for a lot of commentary. It's specifically questions and comments from the SMEs and other faculty members for each student presenter. But the agenda is available digitally and also outside of these two doors, there's a printout. We also have a morning break, a lunch break, and an afternoon break. So that way we can easily stretch ourselves so that way we can go through the day And then at the end of the entire SIP showcase, we invite everyone to join us at the semester award ceremony this Friday, August 19th, via Zoom and in the theater, where we will announce the winners of the SIP projects. There is Best SIP, Most Market Ready, Viewer's Choice, Most Ingenious, and also Best SIP Pitch. So then those will be announced this Friday, and students can say that they have an award-winning project should they win one of our coveted awards. So after the event also ends, we ask that everyone participate in the Viewer's Choice Awards. That's where anybody can view and vote on the presentation that you felt was the best and also signified and represented UAT and everything that we stand for, because the goal obviously is to innovate and to utilize technology so that way you can present your project. So thank you to Lindsay for helping putting this together. You simply need to go to soccertip.com and include the room name SIP voting, but I ask that you wait to watch all of the presentations before you decide on viewer's choice. We do have a SIP committee along with Dr. Bowman and our executive committee that votes on those awards. So that way we'll find out on Friday who the winners are. Any questions before we get started?
Question.
Question, yes. Wait.
Someone in the chat said the audio was choppy.
The audio was choppy. Okay, we did test the sound.
I will be right.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine on my end, so it might be their connection.
Okay, double check your settings online, double check your mic, your volume. We did run a test, so everything is working properly on our end. So we do ask that you post any comments regarding the content. Also keep in mind that this is all recorded and the recording will be available in about a day or two after the showcase concludes, so that way you can watch the showcase in its entirety. And one last thing, please make sure that your phones are on mute or silent, just so that way they do not interrupt the presentations. Also, if you do have to step out, please step out quietly and then try not to step back in until a student has seated. Once they're up here at the podium presenting, we just ask that you wait before you enter and exit the doors. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. First, we're going to get started with our first presenter, Christelle Cyprin, who is a VR major and pitched her idea to business technology with her SIP project, Preserved.
Hello everyone, my name is Christelle Deborah Cyprian, and welcome to the presentation of the viable prototype of my student innovation project, Preserved. This project aims to create an interconnected and interactive mobile application that provides users with the known account of most biblical characters. This includes family trees, map of character journeys, as well as a timeline of biblical events. The interconnectivity of the app stems from its three distinctive modes, which are character, reading, and timeline. Let us begin with the character mode. I have been studying the Bible for 3 years, and I've discovered that character studies are one of the ways that a lot of individuals can relate to the Bible and understand it best. A character study focuses on one specific person in order to learn from their background, mistakes, and victories. The character mode allows users to search for these characters by their genders, names, as well as their professions. Once a profession is chosen, the user will be given the characters within it in the option to look at their map journey family tree, or the events that they have been a part of. Now that we've gotten an overview of the character mode, we'll explore the interconnectivity of the app by starting with the reading mode and making our way to the timeline. The logo at the bottom of the screen leads us back to the homepage. Reading mode consists of the two divisions of the Christian Bible, the Old and New Testament. The Old Testament is the portion before the story of Jesus Christ, and the New follows his life in the origins of Christianity. They both contain different genres with different books, which will appear as soon as they're clicked on. Before we move on with the books in the Old Testament, I would like to give a quick overview of the significance of the genres shown. The law consists of 5 books, and they describe the birth of the nation of Israel and the foundation of the Jewish faith. The 12 books of history are a big focus on the different kingdoms of Israel. The books of poetry are 5 books of the songs and wisdom of the Israelites. The section of the prophets is divided into major and minor prophets, where the 5 major prophets are the longer books and the 12 are the shorter ones. The division isn't based on importance. And for reference, a prophet in the Bible was someone who spoke the words of God to the people, sort of a messenger. And now that we've gotten a brief history lesson, we'll continue with the section of the law. The book's landing page consists of an image that reflects a major theme in the book, as well as the English and Hebrew name under the picture. Hebrew because it is one of the languages that the Old Testament was originally written in. The other books in the section will appear by scrolling to the right. A tap on the first layer will transition into the chapters of the book. I will go ahead and select chapter 3. This project focuses on providing these accounts in order to provide context in the event a character is mentioned in a story other than their own. I know that I've already shown the character mode, but is there a way to access the character's information while in the reading mode? Well, the Preserved app is innovative because it allows users to quickly access the account of a character whenever they are mentioned in any of the books and family trees. The names are underlined in order to prompt the user to click in order to access the information. Once the name is clicked upon, the user will be presented with 3 options that are for the events and timeline, family tree, and the map. The options will disappear by clicking anywhere else on the screen. We'll continue the demonstration by exploring Moses' family tree. The character's family tree consists of their parents, siblings, spouse, and children. The small words in the parentheses inform the user of the relationship between the character chosen and their family members. We have made it to the end of the reading mode. The logo at the bottom leads us to the home page where we can access the character mode, but that won't be necessary because this application allows this transition by simply clicking on any of the family members on the tree. And just like that, we have made it back to the character mode. We've seen the family tree. Let us explore the map of Aaron, Moses' brother. This interactive map will consist of the icons of the event, as well as the known locations. A brief description of the event comes up and the user will be presented with the choice to exit and go back to the map, the home page, or see the event on the timeline. We'll now explore the third mode, which is the timeline. Each book will have its own timeline, and we're currently on the timeline of the book of Exodus. The events are arranged in the order in which they appear in the books. It will provide the name of the event, key characters, and the option to jump back into reading mode to read the text in which the event took place. And just like that, we've gone through the 3 modes of the application. We've made it to the end of the demonstration. I hope that this project leaves you with an idea as to what the Bible consists of and highlights the fact that it has been preserved. This project was inspired by my Christian faith, the desire to help others read and understand the Bible, as well as my passion for history. I am so proud of what the prototype turned out to be, but I couldn't have done it without the help of the following individuals.
Questions or comments for Christelle? Professor Frater?
The fit and finish of this is fantastic. It looks fantastic.
Thank you so
But
much.
absolutely. My question is, when you go into New Testament, is it gonna list the name of the book in Hebrew or Aramaic?
I haven't thought of that, but I do want to include both, all of the languages that it was originally written in.
Yeah, because it's the New Testament.
Yes, because the New Testament was written.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Professor Green?
Awesome job. Like Professor Fraser said, the intro and the ending, that's how you come out swinging. So good. So, and also your user experience, how you went through the demonstration of the app, awesome. Like you showcased all parts. My question now, looking back, what was, I know we talked a lot about, especially in my class, like the connectivity. What was the hardest to connect, like the events to the map to the people?
It wasn't hard only because the software that I was using allows me to add triggers. So it's like I'll add a trigger and I can select any page that I would like. So it wasn't really, I don't know if are you asking for the software base or just like coming up with the idea?
In your opinion.
In my
what
opinion,
was probably the toughest to connect?
toughest to
But it's
connect.
not.
Yeah, I don't really, just because it was so easy in the process. So I guess it was like if I wanted to connect something, I was just able to do it. So it wasn't like a hard process.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I got your help, so.
Thanks for the shout out.
Good stuff. I was curious, so I already know like your future plans for the project, but my curiosity is like, is there any fitting spot for monetization in the application at any point in time?
Yes, so right now, and we actually talked about it in Professor Green's class, I would love to, especially it's because it's going to be something that I'll be working on and constantly making updates. It's not as if I can just drop the whole thing. So it would be like monthly subscriptions. And let's say like a church congregation or just like a seminary or just school, I could like have like a bundle for them and maybe their users can get like different discounts. So that's, I would definitely monetize it because there's a lot of work and it would need constant updates. So yeah, that's the plan for now.
Dr. Ko?
Okay, hold on, relax, breathe. So, no, really incredible work. I mean, at this stage of development, to be so far developed is just fantastic. I actually think she undersold herself a little bit. You know, some of the features and the interactive nature of it is actually probably far superior than what she shows. So, but the main question on innovation, you know, what I'm going to ask. So, make your claim for the innovation. What else exists out there that is similar in nature, does similar things? How is yours unique and more valuable than those?
Okay. In the last couple of slides, I brought up the prior art slide and I mentioned there was 3 apps, Bible Maps. Bible Maps only includes a map in the different locations of specific events. Whereas Bible People, it only has 24 short stories of like, I guess the 24 most popular biblical characters. And there's also Bible characters, but it gives you like most of the characters, but it just gives you like a long list, a summary of their life, kind of like where they've been, and just kind of like what makes them. And so that's what mine would stand out because mine is so interconnected. It gives you just the basic account.
Yeah, right. I don't know if everybody got that. Hers does all of those things, plus it's very interactive in nature. So it's far, I think it's far superior to what else is out there. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Professor Bean?
I just have a question. First, I want to say that was beautiful. Music, it just creates this amazing like environment for your viewer. I wonder, can you read the Bible inside the app?
Yes, reading mode allows you, so that's what reading mode is divided into Old and New Testament, and they also contain the different sections as well as the books within that section. So
The
yes,
entire Bible plus
Yes.
this. Okay,
Yes.
I wasn't sure how.
yes,
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Thank you very
Professor
much.
Anderson?
You are just bubbling over.
My legs are shaking.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to try to write product in a different way. Tell us how you personally were blessed by putting this together.
Personally blessed. At first, I just kind of want to mention it was a bit of a challenge just because of the topic itself. Because this is like sacred text, not just to myself, just other people as well. I wanted to represent it and show it without just any flaws because it's so special to many. But it's just
my end goal, although my major is virtual reality, I would love to teach VR in biblical history. That is my goal. So this was just a starting point, and I just want others to actually let me go back to the question. So whenever like I would show it to people and they would do different like user testing, they would tell me, oh, I never knew that about the Bible. So that makes me feel really good because that is my goal. I would like to share the word. So whenever like someone tells me, oh, I'm learning something new, that's just very important to me. So.
We have a question online by Dr. Henry.
Yes. One of the things that I noticed about looking at your presentation is that your project is very visually appealing. It looks great. There's a lot of information and it's very easy to use. I was just wondering if you ever ran into any problems kind of getting those 3 goals to mesh while you were working on the project. Was there a time where you thought, oh, you know, I could make this more visually appealing, but I would have to lose some of the information, etc.?
Yes, actually, I submitted my final video on Friday, and I actually texted the professor. It was a different family tree on there. I hated it. It was kind of like I just wanted to get it over with, so I just did something. But then I watched the presentation, and my friend who's my main prototyper was just like, "No, we don't like it." So I asked her if I could just submit. So I spent the whole day on Saturday just making the family tree better. So that was my biggest challenge actually, because the software I use, Canva, there's a lot of images that I can find on there and a lot of tutorials. So I was able to learn from that. So
Yes.
Oh, neat. Is there currently a version of the app out right now?
no, but if I do give you like a poster, there'll be a barcode that you can scan and you'll be able to actually use a prototype on your phone. So it'll feel like the real thing.
Okay, we have a question in the back. Dr. Brent.
Awesome job. Awesome job. I like the way you paid attention to making sure the listener could connect, could follow, could see and experience what you were talking about. So my question is, as an entrepreneur, we have a lot of what ifs that we worry about, lose sleep over. What type of what ifs did you lose sleep over or stress you out as you were putting together?
It was more just presenting the text. I didn't want to give like false information. So that's why I had my friend who was also my research assistant on it, just looking at different facts and giving me the different sources as well. So that was it, just giving facts. And I don't want it to be my own words, but the actual words that have been researched. Thank you so much. And thank you for your help.
Thank you, Dr. Singleton. All right, thank you very much. Well done. Okay, next we have Michael Brewer, a robotics major, presenting Smart Visor.
Hello, welcome to the Smart Visor presentation. Have you ever been driving and had the sun glaring in your eyes, but can't take your hands off the steering wheel because all the traffic is hard braking from the same thing happening to them? I'm Michael Brewer, and I've designed a smart visor that will lower automatically and save you from this situation. This project is innovative because it takes the regular sun visor from a vehicle and turns it into a smart visor by incorporating a microcontroller that uses inputs from 3 sensors to automatically adjust the sun visor. This improves safety by allowing for more hands-free driving and improved visibility. I used the engineering design process to develop this project. Through brainstorming ideas and prototype development, I was able to bring my smart visor to life. The smart visor consists of the current style sun visor in your everyday car. It has a NEMA 17 stepper motor attached to it that is controlled by an ESP32 microcontroller. It takes inputs from 3 sensors, a photoresistor light sensor, a magnetometer compass, and a clock. Using these inputs, it'll be able to determine the car's directional heading combined with the time of day for sunrise and sunset and lower the sun visor to protect the driver's eyes. It will also be able to lower the sun visor if there's an increase in light levels. This project is for the working class people between the ages of 30 and 60 who travel to and from work, driving in the sunrise and sunset hours of travel. While other products out there offer a shaded blind that lowers over the glass to block the light, they are not suitable for seeing through and driving with. Would you like fewer auto collisions on your commute to work? With my innovative product of automating the sun visor, the roads can be a safer place. The Smart Visor is the future of hands-free driving. I hope you enjoy watching the build process of my Smart Visor. The final operation of my Smart Visor. I'll plug it in and it'll load up. We'll get the time. And we'll get a couple of variables on the LCD screen for the time, the photo light sensor, and the compass heading. And then I'll adjust the time to the sunrise time between 5 and 7 in the morning and slowly turn the compass to the east direction of 68 to 110 degrees. The visor will open. Once I come out of the east direction, it'll close. And then I'll adjust the time variable to the sunset time of 5 or 7 in the evening and turn the compass to the west direction of 245 degrees to 290 degrees. The visor will open. As I come out of west, it'll close. And then I'll turn the compass outside of the east or west direction and turn the time variable out of the sunrise or sunset time frame. And I'll use just the photo light sensor to detect higher levels of light and open the visor. And lower levels of light and close the visor. And that's the final operation of my Smart Visor. Hello, I'm Michael Brewer, a robotics student. I'd like to thank you for watching my Smart Visor presentation.
Questions or comments for Michael? Professor Perrine?
Very impressive work, especially the multiple prototypes that you had to go through. I can only imagine how much time and effort that definitely took on each one of those iterations. I guess my question is, you said you had to manage inputs and gave 3 different sensors. Did you have any challenges with that, or was it pretty easy to set it off the microcontroller and kind of manage it that way?
Well, thank you. And yeah, there was some challenges. Getting it to work individually with each sensor that would operate, but then trying to combine them to get the outcome I wanted. It was quite complicated. It took me a couple different trade versions to get well.
Awesome job. Thank you.
which one takes precedence?
So it starts off with the time variable. So as long as it's in the time variable, then it will work off the compass. Then if it's outside the time variable, which the time variable sunrise or sunset, then it works off of the photo license.
Okay, cool. And then the other question I have is why did you go with ESP32?
It had everything in it already. It has Wi-Fi to get the clock information, and the processor is fast enough to handle the three input sensors and control the motor.
Cool, thanks. It's fantastic. Like I said before, it's great.
Okay, thank you.
Like, I'm curious, as far as like, how much, like, what's the big size difference between your visor and what's in the cars right now?
Not really a whole lot. It's the one that I have is 10.5 inches wide. The car is only a couple inches bigger. I think it's like 12 inches.
Is that just for the prototype version, or do you foresee the final like product of that potentially looking a little different?
I mean, I don't think it would look too much different than the visor that's already in the car. It would look different than my prototype because I had to simulate like the roof of the car, of course, with it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was just curious if you had like a vision of like what the visor would take on a different shape to block more light than the current visor that we have. But it kind of is.
And then I was hoping to keep it the same as the visor that's in the car, but be able to hide the motors in the brackets of the visor that's holding it to the roof.
All right, thanks.
We do have a question online by Dr. Coddington.
Most of my question got answered about the size, but I was wondering about portability too. So if you move from one car to another car, how portable and what kind of setup time would it take to do so?
I wasn't expecting it to be portable at all. If it were to make it into a car, it would be stationary with that car. I was hoping that it would use the car's existing clock and compass as inputs. So there wouldn't be anything portable. It would just be with that model.
Perfect. Different application, and that works. Really nice presentation and great product.
Thank you.
That way they buy two.
So I think Mike wants to get it to the manufacturer, so it's in the vehicles at all.
Professor Rodriguez?
Yes, again, great presentation. So as I saw your prototype changing, I see a lot of growth. For the next step, the next variation, is there anything that you left out from the current prototypes you're planning on adding for the future? Maybe like a high variant for shorter people that down further.
That has been recommended, so that is a possible option. But what I had in mind was, so my prototype it only lowers and raises the visor. I wanted that actually swivel to go over to the window as well. And I wasn't able to get that in this prototype.
No, I think that's great. Going on a long road trip.
Yeah.
Professor Pike?
He actually just answered my question.
Wonderful. Dr. Singleton?
Good job. Very interesting. I have two questions for you. Okay. So you mentioned car a lot. Is there a different size, or do you have one for trucks? Personal pickup and truck driver. Personal trucks as opposed to just cars, or just the cars?
Not really specific. I mean, if it went to a truck, it would probably get bigger.
Okay, so it'll be different sizes. And my second question was, have you tried this out in the vehicle, and what's it like in terms of safety features for bringing it down? You know, some people sit really close to the steering wheel, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I have not tried it in the vehicle, but I tried to match the size of the visor that's currently in the vehicle already. So if that's not getting in your way, then it should be what I was done. So,
thank you.
Professor Ratliff, did you have a comment? Thank you very much, Michael. Well done. Next, we have Matthew Evans, who is an AI major presenting virtually on his project Crypt.
In 2015, the volume of Bitcoin was in the range of 20 million a day. As of 2021, this has increased to 32 trillion a day. That's around a 170,000% increase. Cryptocurrency is a digital currency used to buy goods and services that uses an online ledger such as the blockchain to hash itself and make sure that you have stored data as well as making sure that the next transaction is valid. Every year, the popularity and volume of cryptocurrencies increases. That's a fast-growing market. However, some people are still only using algorithms from the last decade to buy and sell crypto. What if there is a data source so vast in size, you could use it to predict direction or even volatility of the crypto market? My name is Matthew Evans, and my student innovation project is called Crypt. Crypt is a crypto price helper which allows you to understand the direction of a cryptocurrency price using social media. By using an advanced, long, short-term memory deep learning model built with TensorFlow in Python for sentiment analysis, Crypt compared the sentiment volatility of a cryptocurrency on social media to the price volatility of the actual cryptocurrency. The deep learning model was built on TensorFlow Keras using neural networks, tokenizers, transformers, matrices, as well as a lot of data preprocessing. The data preprocessing is there to strip emojis, links, images, and other unwanted information. The neural network automatically checks through different optimizers such as gradient descent, root mean squared propagation, as well as the Atom optimizer. Atom combined RMS prop as well as gradient descent for a better optimizer. The program will then choose the most accurate optimizer for the job and will continue. The tokenizer turns words into tokens and embeddings to make sure the neural network can understand what to do with them. Once the model is generated, it is used in a Flask API to return a post call for the sentiment analysis. This is how I got the sentiment of a tweet. This is Crypt. As you can see, it has the overall sentiment analysis data, which you can download as a PNG or zoom in and transform. You may also scale the plot to a specific size using this slider for specific time viewing. Here is the crypto data, the same type of plot you can download and transform, and you can also view specific time parts. Here are the correlation numbers at around 20%. With Crypt alone, you can make a better decision when buying or selling cryptocurrency. While using Crypt with a common trading algorithm, such as mean reversion, you could possibly automate crypto trading at a more advanced level. Crypt shows you the general sentiment analysis over time as well as the crypto price over time. While only given a dataset of under a day, the correlation between the price and the sentiment is just around 20%. This will change over events and time. When given a larger dataset, the accuracy will increase, giving you a more precise correlation as well as increasing the chances of a good buy and a good sell. When I first thought of doing this project, there weren't many other projects like it out there. However, now there are dozens of research papers, articles, and even code snippets. What makes Crypt unique is ability to choose any cryptocurrency as well as any social media platform to correlate data. This is possible because of the sentiment analysis and the data preprocessing. In the future, I plan on implementing a feature where you may be able to connect your own social media accounts for data gathering, as well as other types of time series data for time series to time series data correlation. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.
Thank you, Matthew. Any comments or questions for Matthew?
I'm very curious.
Dr. Smith.
All right, so Matt, you said it sounded like you have about, if it's just a day's worth of data, about a 20% accuracy. How accurate could you see this thing getting if you got enough information in it?
Possibly around maybe 40 to 50% accuracy. If you have a good data set, you could get a 40 to 50% accuracy, and anything higher really.
And out of curiosity, the data sets are mostly just social media based, so it's completely emotional that it's context, correct?
Mm-hmm.
No, very interesting.
Other comments, questions? Dr. Anderson?
I'm also wondering about projection laws and regulations.
Will you be able to hear that, Matthew?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? No, I still can't.
Professor Understiller was asking about projections. Do you anticipate incorporating projections? She mentioned that the government is already instilling regulations that may impact the way in which this project can ultimately work. Is there any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so you know how earlier this year there was maybe a potential buyer of Twitter. I was wondering or curious how that could affect my own data set, but it didn't go through, so I never got to see any changes to the data set or changes to how I collect the data. As to projections, that I could, yeah, that you could with the data you have now, you can add that.
Okay, Matthew, we also have two questions online. We have Professor Hinton. We cannot hear you, Professor Hinton. Okay. We'll come back to you, Professor Hinton. Dr. Coddington.
Yes, Matthew, nice presentation in a really neat and an upcoming technology field. I liked that you were using emotion, and I think that some of the current events or recently past events like COVID and the economy and the number of people who are participating in cryptocurrency, all of those are related to the emotions, and I think that you may have a better way to predict based on that. Is part of your plan to not just show the past trends?
Yes, there's also a plan for like forecasting and prediction.
And I heard you mention that, but are you going to use different data sets? One for the COVID period, one for the economy going south, one for just daily Twitter. Is there any granularity in that in the plans?
So I plan to have one singular data set that combines all of them, as well as segregated data sets that have different portions of time and events that happen.
Perfect answer. Great. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
Professor Hinton, did you still have a question? If you can, Professor Hinton, you can add the question in Zoom in the chat. And Matthew, you're able to see us since you're joining us. Oh, there you are. Okay.
All right, something's wrong with that mic. Can you hear me?
Barely, but yes.
I'm sorry, I think I'm having audio issues.
Okay, would you rather type a question in the chat and Matthew can answer it that way?
Maybe it's because he's in a spaceship.
It's hard to talk from outer space, so bear with us. Let's default to that, Professor Hinton, if that's okay. All right, any other comments or questions? Dr. Koh?
So fascinating, Matthew. Please clarify for me. I think I saw you using Pearson's correlation coefficient, but I'm not sure that equals percentage accuracy. I think that's a correlation that just measures the similarities between two longitudinal sets of data. normally, if you're at 25%, if you're at 0.2 or 0.25, normally that's considered a relatively weak relationship. So maybe I'm missing something. You want to clarify or explain a little bit of that? You know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, so that is just the base type of correlation method that I'm using, but I do have other correlation methods in there. However, I did not display them I did not display them on the website.
So
And yes, they are that only shows the correlation between the two graphs.
Yeah, so I guess I'm wondering, because it's such a fascinating and potentially useful and beneficial product, people will be very interested to know the actual success rate, if you will. So maybe you can find a way to calculate that using more straight line mathematics. Maybe that would be really fascinating for folks. Just a thought. Excellent.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Well done. Okay, next we have Isis Boone, who is an AI ACS major, and her project Snip That.
By a show of hands, do you wish that your average snipping tool could do more? I am Isis Boone, and I'm an artificial intelligence and advancing computer science major, and I have the product for you. This is Snip That. Now, you are probably wondering, what is Snip That? How can Snip That help you? Snip That is an accessibility application that allows the user to capture a section of their screen, read it aloud, enlarge or make smaller, copy it to your clipboard, and in addition, point out objects that are within your snip. The way that Snip That uses all these features is utilizing a mildred of AI techniques to improve accessibility in an intuitive and easy way to use. Now, I will demo Snip That for you with all the features that we went over on the previous slide. Right now, we're looking at the back end. We're going to be pressing play to be able to run the application. Snip That is running. Press Ctrl-Shift-S to take a snip. So, the first example we're going to go through is taking the text from the image and being able to copy it to our clipboard and having it be a read aloud. So, I don't know if anybody else finds this annoying. You'll be able to highlight something on a document, but you won't be able to highlight something else on a document that might be even more important. And sometimes you don't want to write it down and you don't want to type it out. You just want it to be quick, fast, and easy. We can Ctrl-S-Shift, take a screenshot of this, zoom in, zoom out, move it around. We can press R. The AI will be able to read what it has on the screen. Then we can press C, escape to get out of here. You can see that the AI already took what was on the screen for you, just in case you forgot to copy it to your clipboard. But right down here, we can Control-V, boom. It will paste what you had from the picture onto whatever document you want, notepad, calculator, anything. The next feature we're going to go through is the AI reading coherent sentences to you from quotes, documents, anything that you'd like to screenshot and have it be read to you. So we're going to go over to this quote, take a screenshot of it. We can move it around, zoom in, zoom out. Then we can press R. One of the most courageous decisions you'll ever make is to now let go of what is hurting your heart and soul. So the AI just read what letters and words are on the screen that you took a snippet of. So we can also copy this if we want the quote for a use of something else. So we can press C. But as I already said, the AI copied it for you down here in the quotations. It also has the format down for you, so you can just copy this, or if you already have it attached to your clipboard, you can press Control V and it will print it out for you on documents, notepads, as I said before. The next will be the analysis of a photo. So we are going to Control Shift S, take a photo of this or a snip. We can move it around, zoom in, zoom out. Then we can press Control Shift A. There you go. It will point out what is on the picture. We can see a backpack, a person. This person, you can barely see that that's a person, but the AI does recognize that as a person. That is a blurred out car, another car, some people in the car, and then a car here. SnipThat wants to improve accessibility for anybody that wants to use this application and would like the snipping tool to become more accessible for various needs. Interested in contacting me, the best ways is through my portfolio website, LinkedIn, or my email. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Questions for ISIS? Professor Rodriguez.
Yeah, I really like this one for reference purposes. I was wondering if at any point you plan on adding some kind of like feature where if you take a picture of something, you can also have it go to, say, search Google or search the web or things that match that picture, things like that.
I haven't actually thought of that as a feature for the application, but it is definitely a good idea, and I would definitely want to add that moving forward.
Professor Anderson?
So it's zooming in and zooming out for the application. So
that's pretty
awesome job, super cool idea. I really like this. You did mention at the start you're thinking more like different snippets of code and programming and taking that out of it. Is that still kind of the intended purpose? It seems like you have much more functionality.
So that was purposely the intent of the project, but it is more of an accessibility application now as well, but it can be used for code, which is very useful.
Awesome job, congratulations.
Thank you.
Professor Pike?
This is a really, really interesting hat. This is a Luddite question, English guy, right? Could this be used for evil? You know how we have the bots that try to crawl into your bank account and they make you identify the picture? It seems like your AI could actually automatically do that.
I don't specifically think it could be used for evil. I hope not. That was not the purpose of the application. It was more for, a better purpose for people that need more accessibility features like zooming in, zooming out, copying, pasting, trying to save that snippet of code or reading a photo aloud or reading a document aloud while you're taking notes. So I don't think anybody would want to really use the application for evil.
That's a favorite?
Well, just to kind of, for the evil part, if it's used for evil, it's already there because you get an API that's doing all those stuff. So if anyone else can access the same type of AI, so the evil's there already. It's not. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
As I preface, Luddite question.
There is a question online. Professor Hinton says, how much time does this save you?
I think it saves me a lot of time. It can read out a document for me, and then I can just write down the key points that I hear from the document, so I don't have to read the document myself. I can listen and type at the same time. It also saves me time. I don't have to I don't have to look up that snippet of code because I will already have it saved in a document. So I won't have to go research that again.
And then Dr. Coddington has a question online.
Isis, fantastic job. One of the things that you mentioned repeatedly were the shortcuts. Control Shift that and the other thing. And I wondered if in the future you plan on having a GUI application that might be a little bit easier for the end user. You talked about accessibility, and memorizing all of those might be more of a problem than having a GUI interface. And I wondered if you'd thought about that.
That was a thought. I feel like it'd be definitely way better with a GUI application that like pops up on the bottom of your screen, and you'll be able to like press the buttons, and it will be able to do each specific key binding that is set on the application. So I've thought about that, yes.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Singleton?
Great job. Is there anyone out there in competition for you providing close to what you're doing?
Well, obviously prior art is the snipping tool. I've done a few I've researched it for a while, but I didn't really see everything all together in one. There are applications that have maybe 2 or 3 or one of the features that I have, but I haven't seen any applications that have all features in one.
Any other comments or questions? I thank you very much, Isis. Well done. Okay, next we have Michael Stubenbrough, who is a game programming and ACS major with his project Candlestick Pattern Detection AI.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael Stubenrock and I'm an ACS and game programming major here at UAT. I'm here today to showcase my Candlestick Pattern Detection AI. It's a SIP project for the AI major. Now, what are candlesticks? Candlesticks are a trading chart type to visually represent a time frame's price action. The visualization also leads to the emergence of patterns which can be acted upon by the savvy trader for high reward and low risk investments. To the right, we have examples of a bullish candlestick and a bearish candlestick. On the bullish candlestick, the opening price point is at the bottom of the candle for that time frame. The closing price point is at the top of the candle for that time frame. The wicks, they're called, coming off the top and bottom, indicate the highest and lowest price point for that time frame. The same is also true of the bearish candlestick, but the opening is at the top of the candle and the closing is at the bottom. Here we have some examples of candlestick trading patterns. Bullish patterns indicate future growth in the price, while bearish patterns indicate decline in price. With more than 100 possible patterns, it's far too difficult to identify all of them when time matters most in trading. Even these 16 might be too difficult. Let's simplify this down to 2 examples to look at more closely. These 2 examples mirror each other, but one represents a bullish pattern and the other a bearish. Take note of the opening and closing price points, and try to identify examples of these patterns on this real chart of the Microsoft stock on a daily time frame. Identify any of our examples? I was able to find 5. The black boxes indicate a dark cloud cover pattern, while the yellow boxes indicate a piercing line pattern. On to our AI. It was developed using object detection techniques using TensorFlow. We used the TensorFlow 2 detection model zoo collection, specifically using the model SSD MobileNet V2 FPN Lite 640 by 640. I developed in Jupyter Notebook using Python on a virtual environment on my own computer. I leveraged my GTX 980 Ti for quicker and more accurate learning, and I trained on a custom data set of my own making with 63 images and around 200 labeled bounding boxes. I trained for 20,000 time steps. It's able to identify the 2 prior candlestick patterns in real time on any chart. Let's have a demonstration. For our demonstration, we'll be running this cell within Jupyter Notebook. This cell will open a viewport, which our AI can then use to recognize any patterns we've trained it to within a frame. We'll also be looking at the Apple stock chart on the daily time frame. And as we can start going through, we already have a dark cover pattern recognized there. We have a good piercing line recognized there, a dark cover recognized there, and another dark cover. We have a dark cover pattern recognized there, a dark cover there, and a misidentified piercing line. A good dark cover there. A good dark cover and another misidentified dark cover. A good piercing line. Two good piercing lines and another dark cover. Next, we'll change to the minute time frame to see its accuracy on that. We have a dark cover there, a good dark cover there. That's a pretty good dark cover as well. Misidentified piercing line there. And the accuracy of this model will increase with more training images and more training steps. But for these two patterns, it seems to be effective with just this amount for now. And then we have another dark cover and another piercing line. Let's also take a look at the futures chart, because this is where you would most likely be day trading on if you don't have more than $25,000 to trade stocks daily. We'll check out the E-mini futures for NASDAQ. And as we start going through, we could see some dark covers. This is only on the daily time scale. This website does not allow you to look at the minute time scale without a subscription. There's a good piercing line. It's recognized there. Another good piercing line. Another good piercing line. And then as we scroll forward, we'll go back to the very up-to-date section for the NASDAQ mini futures. And it doesn't seem to recognize any patterns there. And the only one I could see is maybe a piercing line there and a dark cover there. It does not seem to be able to recognize those. But this is where we'll end the demonstration. Thank you for watching. Now, you might be thinking, if it's only two patterns on one chart, I could easily do this with a little practice. And you may be right. But what if your screen looks like this? Or if you're a professional trader like this guy? It would be impossible to identify emerging patterns while day trading on a minute time frame for all of these stocks. That's where my AI comes in. And with infinite scalability, the sky is the limit. For prior works, we have a project by these two guys. They encoded candlesticks as images for pattern classification using convolutional neural networks. The difference being that pattern classification is a different technique for machine learning than object identification. They're very similar, but not quite the same. And that about wraps up my presentation. Thank you for watching.
Comments or questions for Michael?
Yep, start over here.
First, Peggy?
So does yours handle 16 or two different?
Just two for now, but with if I was to expand the data set, it could go up to all 100 patterns if need be.
Okay, good deal. And so why did you just go with two?
I went with two because it was a little bit difficult to scale up more than two, and I wanted just the two to be as accurate as possible. And I felt like I achieved that pretty successfully.
There's a comment by Professor Hinton. Let me pull it up. He says, great SIP, very innovative and helpful. What did you like most about developing this in Jupyter?
I liked most in Jupyter because it was like very easy to interact with the command prompt as well for the project. When I tried to do this in Visual Studio Code, I was having issues setting up virtual environments, and it was just not quite as intuitive, I guess.
Professor Frank?
Awesome project, really cool idea. My question is, do you envision this more for like just the average investor, like people like us, or for people on Wall Street?
I think both could utilize it very successfully. I think, there's for professional traders, they already have a lot of technical indicators that they can use. But in terms of just candlestick charts, I feel like anybody could use this pretty successfully and find some success if they're also have the basic knowledge for trading as well.
Awesome. Congrats.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Dr. Cook?
So yeah, another predictive tool, really fascinating. Have you calculated or examined any kind of success rate with prediction?
Yeah, you're talking about the average precision, for example, like any analytics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
comparing, making making a forecast and then watching it play out to see if it actually turns out to be accurate.
Okay. I was viewing this less as a predictive tool and more so as, you know, a day trading tool for identifying the patterns across multiple charts so that you could then yourself act on those trades. And then just as a, you know, short explanation of day trading on candlestick patterns, you'll typically enter a trade and you'll have a stop loss and a take profit. And it'll be a bracket of if price goes up to this point or down to this point. If it's like, if you're in a sell trade or a buy trade, it'll be, you'll either lose money or make money, and it'll automatically like get you out of that trade essentially. So I was thinking it would be more helpful with that, with identifying those patterns as they emerge. Thank you. Excellent.
I have a question online by Dr. Coddington.
Yep.
Michael, great presentation. I realize that day trading philosophies are a lot different than long-term investments. Could the candlestick approach, which really is geared towards day trading, be used by long-term investors for an enhancement for your product going down the road?
Yeah, I think it absolutely could. I didn't actually think so going into the project. But as I looked through, you know, for the data set, just to clarify, I had to go through the charts and identify all the patterns myself. And as I was looking through the daily charts, I noticed that these patterns seemed to indicate pretty successfully trend reversal within the price.
Great. I think that would be a great next step, especially for new investors.
Professor Anderson?
The impact of day traders on the market had a tremendous impact.
Yeah.
What do you imagine putting a tool like this in the hands of the day trader might be with auto buy sell as implementations?
It's hard to say because there's already so many automatic algorithms out there for trading that have a huge effect on the market and have for the last 20 years. But a lot of, as far as I know, I have a few connections into the industry with people who do it professionally. Day traders tend to try to stray away from the algorithm trading side of things because it's kind of like a culture behind it, at least all the old heads in the industry. So I don't know if it would have, to answer the question, I don't know if it would have as much of an effect as it would seem to indicate, but I think it would be more for the retail side. It would have a greater effect.
Thank you very much, Michael. Next, we have a SIP team of Brendan Carlson, an AI ACS major, and Emilio Kress, a network engineering and network security major with job opportunities bot.
As everything is moving online, so too is the job application process. Long gone are the days where you walk into a store with your resume and ask to talk to the manager on duty. Nowadays, you're stuck shifting through hundreds of hiring posts on Google, and we wanted to take away the monotony and tediousness of that process. My name is Emilio Kress, and I partnered with Brendan Carlson to bring the Job Opportunities Bot to life. Job is an AI that is capable of performing job link searches custom tailored to each individual user, removing the need for hours spent searching the 90th page of Google. Job is a free bot that can only be used through Discord, a free-to-use communication software available on PC and mobile. The user can tell Job their career preferences, and our AI will search the web for links from the first page of Google to the 230th.
Thanks, Emilio. And hello, everyone. Before we get into the JOB, I have to explain the application we use to control our bot, Discord. Discord is a communication media application that has a focus on young people still in high school and college. In this application, there are a few different aspects necessary to understand all of what the JOB can do. First, let's look at roles. Roles are private tags you can give users to describe a group of people. They are often used to send messages getting the attention of the group they are tagged to, like I will display here. As you can see, I am tagged with two roles, the admin and web design role. So if I were to mention the web design role, as you can see, The yellow outline shows that I was notified when the message was sent, making me a part of the web design role. These roles are important to our bot because depending on the role the user has, the JOB will give different jobs to the users. Let's see right now what types of jobs the JOB has for me while I'm using the web design role, using our display search function. As you can see, here is the output. We have the author of the message and then the web design jobs as well as their links. Next, we wouldn't want our users to be locked into one role when they just started. So we added a way to change your role to fit a separate job. Let's change our role to game design using the change job function. This way, no matter what you're looking for, you can always change up your role to fit the job you're looking for. The last portion of what we will be looking at today is Discord's direct messages. Let's say you found a job that you weren't looking for, but a friend might be interested in. This is where the JOB's send job function comes in. Here, I will send myself the job opportunity, and the JOB will send it directly to me, notifying me who the author of the message was and the content provided from the display search. And as you can see in the top left corner, the JOB sent a direct message to me displaying the previously mentioned job applications. Lastly, no good application comes without a trusty guide. If a user were to add this bot to their server, the custom help function would show off the JOB and its capabilities. As you can see, all of the important commands are listed here. Thank you everybody so much, and here's Emilio for the ending.
Next time you need to find a job, whether you're a first-time applicant or simply looking for a career change, log on to Discord and trust the Job Opportunities bot to deliver your ideal job in a matter of seconds. It doesn't matter who you are, everybody, everywhere, every day needs a job.
All right, question for Amelia and Brendan. Professor Slater.
Really have a question. That was a great CTA at the end, the call to action.
Thank you.
I'm completely impressed.
Thank you.
Knowing what I know about, believe it or not, having to look for jobs through my whole life, yes, this would have been great to have. Really making a difficult thing a lot easier. So great job.
Thank you very much.
Let's bring.
As a Discord user myself, I totally love this, and I think it's awesome. I'm always down to add more functionality to Discord. My question is, like, in terms of expansion, getting this in other people's hands, would you send the bot to like other people's servers, or do you want your server that was in that demonstration like the hub? People come to you guys.
So it would function like a popular Discord bot called Hydra. It's like a music bot. It has a central hub that you log into, and then it sends it to your server. So as the job gets bigger, it would go to people's servers to function in their server rather than a central hub with thousands of users. So as you'd imagine, that job text channel would become quite packed if there was thousands of people in there.
Awesome.
That's okay.
It's great, but like everyone else said, real quick, does it only do Indeed, or what job boards does it cover?
So it covers any job listing site out on the internet. So the actual script that it runs, you can have ignored websites. So if you wanted to filter out, eventually, if you wanted to filter out just the third-party ones, so like LinkedIn, Indeed, once those get filtered out, then it would start returning first-party websites. So like Sony.com/careers and other websites like that.
There's a comment online from Professor Hinton. He asks, what alerts can this use to get your attention?
So in Discord, as I mentioned in the video, that yellow highlight suggests that the user has notified another user, which would, so long as the notifications are not muted and notify you and ping you to go and look at the message. So it uses the already built-in polls feature.
Professor Bunce?
Great tip, by the way. I have a security question. Is there anything that checks the legitimacy of the company to like prevent scams?
I don't know if we have anything in place right now. Right now, it just kind of grabs what it takes from Indeed or LinkedIn. So if a job applicant kind of trusts those third parties to filter out those kind of scam jobs. So if it's on LinkedIn or on Indeed, then we kind of just assume that it's safe. But that is something to look into once we start building.
And we also have the websites that have it blocked by our script.
And we also get the blacklisting. We want to ignore some sites.
There's a question by Professor Coddington online.
Yes. Thank you very much for the presentation. I really like this idea, and I'm actually hoping you're going to offer this free to UAT students so that when they graduate, they can find that job. My question was more technical in nature and roles. There are job skills where you would want multiple roles, whether it's database and C# development. Is there a way to have multiple roles? Or is this a future?
As of right now, there is not a way to have multiple roles and search for multiple qualifications or anything like that, but very much in the future, I plan on implementing that. That's a big portion of what the JOD will be.
I agree with you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Amelia and Brandon. We have one more presentation before we go on break by Daniel Cody Mitchell, who is an artificial intelligence, computer science, and network security major with his project Metacognition Artificial Intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. The world is becoming a safer, more productive, and healthier place, all because of artificial intelligence. AI allows us to have self-driving cars, Amazon warehouses fully staffed by robots, and algorithms that can successfully diagnose people with diseases far earlier than a doctor would ever be able to. All of these things and more are possible because of artificial intelligence. But what if you want to start making AI? Where do you start? Hi, I'm Cody Mitchell, and I asked myself that question in my first AI class here at UAT. The AI classes taught how to use some simple AI libraries in our programs, but they did not teach about the things that really interested me, like deep neural networks and reinforcement learning. When I began my own research on these topics, I soon found out why. It was quite complex. Not only was the documentation quite complicated for even popular deep learning libraries like TensorFlow, but many of these expected you to understand the fundamentals of AI, and the deeper you got into it, the more and more complex math was required. There seemed to be a gap in between someone knowing nothing about AI to even being able to start learning a library like TensorFlow. Enter Metacognition Artificial Intelligence. My innovation claim is to develop a visually based AI creation program that both educates the user and provides insightful information into a user's artificial intelligence. This is MAI. This program is designed for users that know nothing about AI. It gives you interactive tutorials that you can go through and will teach you the basics of AI as well as the unique features of this app. In the MVP phase, only a few core layers are implemented, such as the dense, convolutional, and output layers. Every layer can be dragged from the selection panel into the creation canvas. When clicked, each layer will display its editable settings in the dialog panel on the right. Each action the user takes is recorded in the console. If the user inputs data that is incorrect for the field, the user will receive immediate visual feedback that something is wrong. The detailed error message will also be displayed in the console, so that the user can see what the input was incorrect and then how to correct it. Like that. The user can also see how different layers in the AI are connected to each other, and they can immediately see if a layer still needs more connections, if it can have more connections, or if it has reached its maximum number of connections. The user can also see how data flows through the AI by how the connections are animated. Let's go through the tutorial for a dense layer. Over in the tutorials menu on the left, we'll select the dense tutorial, a dense subject. The tutorial will appear on the right, with text as well as images to help the user to learn. This tutorial talks about dense layers, which relies heavily on your knowledge about matrices, which will be discussed in the math tutorial for MAI. Let's do as the last paragraph in the tutorial here asks, and drag a dense layer onto the creation canvas from the core category. And look at that, we've created a dense layer. Let's look at what's next in the tutorial. Here it discusses the various settings available for a dense layer. If we click on the dense layer, we'll be able to see what settings it's talking about. First is the variable name. This is just a name given to the dense layer that will be used in the Python that the AI generates. The unit setting is what controls the number of rows in the dense matrix. You may enter any number you wish. Higher numbers allow the AI to learn more about the data it is processing. However, this can lead to overfitting, which is a problem every AI faces. A matrix with 100 rows seems like a good starting point, and we'll choose the standard ReLU activation for now. Let's add another dense layer, and this one will have a smaller number of units, just 10. And this activation will choose a softmax. Alright, let's train this AI model. Wait, how do you do that? Alright, let's look at the tutorial. Engage warp drive. Your model is complete. Now how do you train it? Well, first, there is one more thing you need to configure, the training settings. These are also commonly known as the fit settings. You can find these by clicking the gray gear in the toolbar at the top. This will bring up the last three settings that we need to consider. The batch size, which will control the number of samples that the AI will study at one time. Number of epochs, which is the number of iterations that the AI will train. Let's set this at a low number for now. And shuffle, which will control the order the AI receives the samples in. This makes it so that it can't just memorize the order that the answers are in, much like someone might memorize the answers to a test without knowing how to complete the test. When you are confident in your fit settings and the button next to the gray gear has activated, continue to the next page. Alright, let's do that. That yellow button at the top center of your screen is the compile button. When you click that button, MAI will check through your entire AI model for any errors, and if it finds any, it will turn red and tell you what went wrong below in the console. But if everything checks out, it will turn green and present to you with the train button, which is the third and final button on the AI toolbar. Let's hit the train button and go to the last page. Congratulations, you created an AI model from scratch. You've learned about matrices, losses, optimizers, pre-processing, and a whole boatload of other skills for your beginning into the field of AI. Watch our AI go. We just created an AI model for analyzing handwritten digits. What we did in just a few minutes took me days to figure out the first time on my own. If you want to learn how to start working with artificial intelligence, then just come learn with MAI.
Questions or comments for Cody? Professor Prater.
When you're filling in the parameters for dense or whatever else, do you have a default setting, or do you have to fill in a number for that?
So some do have default settings. Like you saw, the variable name would automatically put in dense. So some of them do have default, but some of them you do have to specify something for it.
Which can make it difficult if you're learning. It's nice to have training wheels. So you might want to add not even a default, but even like a recommended window to say, I would use this, I would use 1,000 or something like that, and still make them input 1,000, but kind of like maybe a training wheels version, like training wheels and then dependent.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I do want to add more like tips and like more helpful pop-ups and things like that. So yeah, that's a really good idea.
There's a comment from Professor Hinton in the chat. He says, outstanding, Cody. If you're using an app to teach you as a student, you will be staring at it for hours. For this to happen, it has to have a great look and feel that your eyes can handle for hours. Your app has that. Amazing, gentle, yet easy to see colors, and they complement each other well. I could use this for hours. How did you come up with such a great color scheme? In the future, would you add some soft study focused music to it?
I hadn't thought about the music actually. That's a good idea. So I probably would do that in the future. As for the color scheme, I actually entered this into production studio, and one of the people that joined my team was a design person. So they helped a lot with the color scheme and all that. I knew I kind of wanted something blue because that's kind of a calmer color to help people focus. But he was able to help a lot with kind of the meshing of the colors.
Ms. Pring?
Just kind of backing up on President's comment, I think the look is amazing, especially how you show how the data flows. Super easy to do that way. My question is, do you see this being, you put this like on the internet for anyone interested to learn? Are you mainly thinking of like give this to college or university, or are you gonna just start your own little school of AI?
At least for now, it'll probably just kind of be on the internet for people to find to use. The idea of it was to make it easier for people to start using AI.
Would that be cool as well?
Yeah, getting it into the hands of people, whether that be through Google or university, just kind of how I'm able to do that. So all the above.
Awesome. But Cody again.
There you go. Any other comments or questions? Well done, Cody. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to the Summer 2022 SIP Showcase. We're going to continue our presentations with the majors of business technology, digital marketing, and advertising art. Next up, we have Dylan Bullock, who's a business technology major with his project Seeker.
Hello, my name is Dylan Bullock, and my project's name is Seeker. My project is an application for Android and Apple phones. This application is to help young adults find places to go out for a night of fun. Places like restaurants, bowling, theme parks, and other fun places you might think of. But my app does things different than any other applications you may know. My app does this by asking 5 questions based on personal feelings and activities in the area. After the questions, my app uses Google and Yelp reviews as well as GPS to locate fun places based off of all this data. Once it compiles this data, it will give you a list of suggested places that would be fun for you based off the questions you answered. Once you pick a place, it will link you to the map data and information on that location. So by adding these personal questions, my app adds a personal element and makes it a step above other apps. It creates a personal search that will lead to specific locations based on mood and personal preferences. This will make it different than other apps and give it a more personal connection to the user. Speaking of personal connections, my app also has its own social review system as well. It has a 1 to 5 star rating which you can access in your history after visiting a place. When you rate a place, it will post your rating to your friends list so they can see you went there and how you liked the place. You can also see what your friends rate. This will give you more suggestions and help you keep track of places you and your friends have visited, and you can ask other people about the place they went. The app has a messaging system in it so you can contact and talk with your friends. If you aren't the social media type, you can always edit what is shared in the privacy settings. Moving on, I want to show what my app looks like and how it would function. So first off, I have the main menu. Before you even log in, you can go ahead and click Discover Places, and this will take you to the login screen. From here, you would enter your info and log in. Then from here, you have the main screen UI. We are first going to start a new search for a location, and this is an example of one of the questions you will get when using Seeker. You answer the question and then move on to suggestions. Say you answered on the more energetic side, it'll give you those more energetic suggestions, or if you answer more on the relaxed side, it'll give those more relaxed suggestions. Then we go back to the main menu, and we look at history. Here, you can look at places you visited and even rate them. You can just click on the stars, that'll take you to the next page, and it'll ask you how many stars to give this place. It'll show the title and everything, and then after you rate it, it will show how many stars you gave it in your history. From here, we'll go to a friends page where you have your friends list, and you can see their posts about ratings. You can look at your friends list by clicking here. You can also click on a friend's name to message or see their posts. Then finally, we have the settings page, which will have information on account info, notification, and privacy settings. And as far as my prototype, that is all I have to go on. But why use my app? How does my app help people? Well, my app will help by recommending new and exciting or relaxing places for people to visit and create new and possibly lasting memories between people and provide new experiences to many. My app also creates exposure for businesses. It'll bring in new customers that may become loyal customers who visit regularly. Whether it is a big or small business, as long as it's online, it will be recommended on my app. This app will help to create personal experience while also giving exposure to businesses. So it's catching two birds with one stone, basically. Plus, there is room for having a sponsored businesses for revenue. And the way that would work is if the business falls within the search criteria, you could have it listed at the top and labeled as sponsored in the search. So that way we can have businesses who want a little bit more exposure. They could help out with the revenue on the app, and that way they can get more exposure by being sponsored within it. This is all I have for now. Thank you everyone for your time. Again, my name is Dylan Bullock, and that is Seeker.
Dylan, any comments or questions for Dylan? Professor Rodriguez?
Yeah, so I like the concept of this. I mean, a lot of times people, they want to go out and do something and think what they want to do. So I was wondering, are you going to plan on creating a way to make it more specific towards people or groups of people, like maybe adding on questions, of things that they like, so that it kind of focuses people to kind of join each other later on?
That could be something we'll work on in the future, but I really haven't thought of that and haven't gone that far, to be honest.
I also really like this idea, especially I'm always trying to find new things to do in the city, and I think it's super cool. I really especially like your friends list that you added on there. Have you ever thought of maybe adding in a little calendar thing that you can maybe invite your friends to specific events or stuff like that, so you can use the friends list to not only keep up with what they're doing, but invite them out to
No, that actually could be a nice idea. I have not thought of that idea, putting in a calendar to maybe invite dates out. That would actually be good and work more on the social aspect.
It's very cool idea.
Professor Anderson?
No, I hadn't thought about that or gotten that far. To be honest, it's something that could be added. There's a lot of ideas that still could be added to this. As I said, it was kind of a prototype, so no, I haven't thought that far.
I have a suggestion as well, and you might have already tackled this already because you have it set up for relaxed versus energetic. I'm wondering if on the relaxed side, if we've found a way to determine how much noise is going to be at some of these venues. One of the things that I find trouble with, I'm 40, sandbar's too loud. I want to actually go out with my friends and have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that could work into the app, or has that already?
That could be probably a question we could come up with and work into it. To be honest, most of this is done in Figma, so it's not actually programmed. These are mostly just animations of how the app would look.
Okay.
This is just done through Figma because I haven't had any partners or anything to work on this. So I just did with what I could. So it's mostly just animations. There's a lot of room for growth, or if I can actually get programmers and a team behind this application.
Professor Adam Moore has a question online.
Yes.
So actually, you just answered my question. I wasn't sure if you'd actually developed the application yet or not, and you just confirmed it's a prototype, not the actual application.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Dylan. Okay, next we have Kristen Koser, who is a double major in digital marketing and advertising art with her project, You Can Type It.
Hey you, are you new to design? Don't know much about type design? Tired of reading articles and watching videos? Then look no further than You Can Type It. You Can Type It is for introductory designers that are new to typography and want a more interactive and visual way to learn about type. My innovation claim. My project is innovative because it teaches new designers about the importance of type through an interactive website. But before we dive into my site, let's look at the competitors. KernType is an interactive website that teaches you about the importance of kerning, which is the spaces in between the letters. DeFont is a website where you can find all sorts of different types of unique fonts. Google Fonts shows you a variety of usable fonts with all of its style choices. And lastly, Adobe Fonts has a huge variety of themed fonts and also shows recommended font pairings. Now onto the website. Once you click the Click to Start button, you'll be taken to the home page. The home page is designed to get the user excited. I've added my innovation claim to the home page for the users to understand the intent of the site. In this section, I added stock imagery of places where you can find type, but often overlooked. It's meant to get the user's anticipation running. At the very bottom, the paragraph explains the layout of the site and the interactive feature, the hover feature. The hover feature will show the differences between sans serif fonts and serif fonts. Some fonts might look good together, while some might work against each other. Under the Continue button, it also shows the fonts that were used on the page. Now we're on the main page, where users can choose from sans serif fonts or serif fonts. Let's look at the serif page. The serif page is where users can get basic information like questions what, where, and why. These questions are also on the sans serif page. You can also see that the hover feature has been integrated in the questions. Now to the sans serif page. It has the same layout as the serif page because these are the most overall informative pages. The font pages are laid out a little more different than sans serif and the serif page. Let's take a look. Each font page will have an alphabet with a hover feature to differentiate either between sans serif fonts or serif fonts. It's also to show that some fonts can work really well with each other or against each other. All of the font pages will have a usage of the font section, while others might have an additional history section too. All of the pages also have different layouts with unique animations. Let's check it out. Thank you so much for watching. For additional information, my name is Kristen Colasar, and you can type it right now for desktop.
Done, Kristen. I do want to comment on your project and just having had the pleasure of working with you over the semesters. Just having worked in graphic design for over 2 decades, it's really great to see such an interactive tool that seems so simple, but yet it profoundly shows the difference to an aspiring designer, how impactful type can be. And I appreciated that you pointed out the other font repositories, Adobe, Apple, Google, because it's one thing to see it in its context and also apply to a graphic, but it's another to literally hover over instantly on a numerous fonts and be able to see the difference, because not everyone is a trained designer, but they trust their gut when something doesn't look right. And a lot of people have that natural instinct because we appreciate beauty and art. So thank you very much for all your hard work on this. And I hope that it does make new aspiring designers appreciate type, because it's one of those that doesn't get enough I think, awareness of how impactful it is. So well done, thank you. Any other comments for Kristen? Professor Slater?
I'm a font freak, so I love this already. Anything that has to do with photography, because it's what I do, the nature of my business as well as graphic design, just like Professor Valenzuela just said, definitely see the use here for aspiring graphic designers. And I really like the fact that we changed the comparison. It's interesting to me that the Proxima has one to go back and forth. And then I saw your explanation for it. I love the design work that you did on your graphic too. I thought it was very informative, real clean. It was easy for me to follow, even though this camera is shaking from the air conditioning and I'm getting a headache. It was still really well done. Great job.
Like I said, looks really cool, and I always default to F-Story for that kind of like graphic design work. But my curiosity with it is, with it being such a useful tool set, and like, how would one find that tool and utilize it though? Like, because there's a lot of cool things out there, but sometimes it's kind of a pain to find. So where do you, I guess, proceed outreach, and where can people find it and get it if they want it?
Through the Wix website, I can get it onto like the Google pages to get up there more. And I'm hoping I can do that more. And I also am hoping that I can add more fonts to it to get more recognition for it. And also, I can always promote it other places. Of course, I also have the school Discord. I can send it to students and they can get out more.
Do the monetization model to go with it as well?
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's understood?
Yes, thank you. Some of the best innovations, it was the completion of how, and this is definitely one of those. Do you have any plans for any local work or any like this sort of campaigns or online something, several different ones?
I think so. I think it would be really very good to actually show that I know that Photon uses is used by the Dior. I think it's a good idea to post those logos into those specific fonts pages.
Any other comments or questions? And Kristen, that's another thing you may consider too, because there's a lot of rebranding going on right now. So that's a great tool to integrate. There might be even possibility for partnerships with existing font repositories to implement a feature like this. So thank you very much. Well done, Kristen. Next, we have our advertising art major, Hagen Cates, with his project palette, Your Design Palette.
My name is Hagen Cates. I'm an advertising art major, and my student innovation project is Palette. Now, what is Palette? Palette is the future of communication between graphic designers and their clients. With Palette, a designer can send their client a document with a series of innovative questions to help them gain a greater insight on what their client wants or needs from their logo. Let's take a look, shall we? Here we have our welcome page. Welcome. We're Palette, your design pal. So here, this goes over what the client is about to do. The client is about to go through the design process step by everyone. My name is Hagen Cates. I'm an advertising art major, and my student innovation project is Palette. Now, what is Palette? Palette is the future communication between graphic designers and their clients. With Palette, a designer can send their client a document with a series of innovative questions to help them gain a greater insight on what their client wants or needs from their logo. Let's take a look, shall we? Here we have our welcome page. Welcome. We're Palette, your design pal. So here, this goes over what the client is about to do. The client is about to go through the design process step by step and able to send that directly to their designer. So let's go. Here we've got a few questions. What's our company called? For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to use CycleWorks. How would you describe your company? I would describe CycleWorks as vibrant, energetic, and fun. What does your company do? CycleWorks sells bikes to families. And that right there is the answer to our next question. What's your target demographic? Our demographic is those families. And where is this logo going? This logo is going to go on t-shirts, business cards, and hats. So next we've got color. This page goes over the psychology of color, showing what each color makes us feel. Personally, I really like yellow because it's optimistic, creative, and happy. So here we've got our originals, tints, and shades. I really like the tint of yellow. So next, we've got a few questions based on color. What color do you think suits the company best? I think yellow suits the company best. And what's your favorite color? My favorite color is blue. That's why I chose to use it in the palette. Palette. So let's take a look at graphics. There's two different types of graphics when it comes to logo design. So we've got vector graphics, which are more smooth and things like that, and raster graphics, which are a bit more pixelated. Usually your vector graphics are made in Adobe Illustrator, whereas your raster graphics are made in something like Photoshop or even just taken with a regular camera. Now down here, we've got a mock-up of a business card showing the client what your logo might look like on a t-shirt, a business card, a hat, a billboard, what have you. So let's go ahead and take a look at those vector graphics. Here we've got a selection of bicycles, and immediately I'm drawn to this one down here because it has the same yellow as I chose for CycleWorks. So that's what we're going to pick, but let's not leave those raster graphics out of it. We'll take a look at those too. So here immediately I'm drawn to this one because of the yellow, but that's just a background image there, and it's off to the side too, and it doesn't really have to do too much with the bicycle. Here this one's got a yellow wall, we're getting a little closer, but the bike is just in front of it. The bike has very little to do with it. And here, the yellow is on the bicycle, so we're going to pick this one. I really like how this looks. And so next, we've got fonts. Palette allows you to select from a variety of fonts, including serif, sans serif, and script fonts. Serif fonts are what you want to use to look professional. Sans serif can be a bit more casual, and script fonts are your handwritten calligraphy type fonts that look more cursive-like. Next, we've got our review. We can go through any of these pages, any of these previous pages, and be able to change our answers. So personally, I might want to pick a different vector image. I like this one instead. So we'll pick that one, and then we're going to go right back here. So we'll click next, and we're all set. We'll be able to email these right to our designer, and our designer can see all of our answers in a list and see exactly what we want out of our logo. And that, my friends, is Palette. Thank you all for listening.
Nice job, Hagen. Something that I want to point out is I called you my sleeping giant because the amount of work that you did to bring this to life, it could be complicated, to have someone try to articulate their idea to a designer so that way they can create a logo for their business. The customer doesn't always know how to express what they want, but they know it when they see it. And that could be a very challenging experience for a designer that says, well, there's so many options. It's an abundance. And I think this tool will help the client communicate as much as possible. So that way, at least you're in the realm of possibilities. There is no one tool that that will ever exist that will pinpoint that one particular logo that will successfully meet the client's needs until the client sees iterations, options, but not too many, just enough that we're in the realm of possibilities. So I think that there's a lot of potential with this application. Anything that helps the client communicate, especially with terms that they may not understand. They might even forget that there's an option between line art and imagery, like photography. So just wanted to make those comments. I think that you should seriously consider pursuing this idea and integrating a lot more features into it, especially when you mentioned that the logo can be applied to hats, t-shirts. It'd be really nice if we had a rollover feature where a very simple line art t-shirt would pop up and I could see it on the t-shirt or the hat itself or the billboard. There's still a lot of tangible applications with logos. So just my 2 cents, but well done. Any other comments or questions? Dr. Brendan.
Good job, Megan. I like this when made it clear for the listener the different colors and the psychology of colors. I think people don't realize a lot of times it's a favorite color, but it may not look good in the logo or may not present well when it's printed out. So good job.
Question, please.
I like it's great option. It'd be fun if you and Kristen collaborated and added the font.
Of course. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Any other comments or questions? Well done, Hagen. Thank you. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Summer 2022 SIP Showcase. We are continuing our presentations with our game majors. That includes game design, game art animation, and game programming. Don't forget that we are asking you to vote for SIP Viewers Choice Award. Make sure that you go to socrative.com and the room name is SIP Voting. Please make sure that you watch all of the presentations before deciding on who your favorite SIP project is. We just completed business technology, digital marketing, advertising art, virtual reality, as well as artificial intelligence, advancing computer science, and human-computer interaction. So now we are continuing on with game after our wonderful lunch break. So next we have Jocelyn Nowak, who will be presenting virtually. She is a game design major, presenting her project Impact of Time.
Have you ever been playing a game and been told that something urgent was about to happen? But then you end up having plenty of time to go and grind levels or do side quests and pretty much anything other than that one important thing. Or felt like going and doing something within the game or responding on time didn't have an impact within the game. Games consist of story concepts that use the sense of urgency and illusion of choice to keep the player motivated. But there are often timers to these ideas that aren't real and end up with the player feeling as if their choice to do something over another meant nothing. What if I told you there was a way to change that? For time to make choices matter. Impact of Time is here to do just that. Hello, my name is Jocelyn Nowak and my major is game design. This prototype was made using the Unreal Engine and using the blueprint formatting. Impact of Time uses a persistent timer that runs when the game is open, controlling when events happen and for how long they are available for. Players making decisions to do an action can change the length of availability for some quests through a system checklist. If the player fails to do a task, depending on the severity, it can cause different effects. Major story events could be set to change the story entirely, while smaller events like not giving an NPC an item changes your UI. Smaller events can have similar or the same impact on smaller features within the game to signify that the player has made a change within the game. This can be a predetermined set of changes that the system will follow based on the outcome of the situation. For example, if you do not do a fetch quest of retrieving a ball for an NPC, your UI will lose a color. Retrieving the ball adds a color. Another example would be having a negative impact on an area can have a negative effect such as the screen going gray in that area. Giving different events similar outcomes makes it so the game will not be too large of a file for computers to be able to handle, while still creating the effect of time having an impact and the player having an impact based on the time spent in the game. This idea came to me after hearing multiple complaints about not having an effect when making a choice, and after hearing multiple jokes about NPCs being in danger and the player just choosing to ignore them for a bit because they could. With that information, I thought about a timer that would trigger events after so much gameplay. The events would have different outcomes based on how the player dealt with them. This is to give a feel similar to real life. For example, in real life, you might be invited to a party, and whether you go or not, the party still happens. But what happens at the party may change based on your absence. With this, however, I needed to figure out a way to simplify it so that the system would not cause the game to be too large. With some suggestions, I focused on the changes being around something multiple things could impact, such as UI. When I started working on this project, I knew exactly what kind of game this would be for, a story-based single-player game. I ended up spending an entire semester looking at this project and trying to figure out how it would be shown without showing the entire game. I nearly dropped the idea of a persistent timer to focus on something more UI focused. But while working upon that, it made me realize the timer could stay. Impact of Time is a system intended to make games feel more real and like the player choices actually matter within a game, even if the choice is to do absolutely nothing. Imagine within, say, a Pokemon game, you would actually need to hurry up to the rival team's location and put an end to their plans. And instead of them waiting around for you to grind up experience and do whatever side quest you want to do, they would actually go through with their mission. Just imagine, where your choice to do something other than the main quest mattered, or time mattered.
Very nice, Jocelyn. Questions or comments for Jocelyn?
So Jocelyn, good job as always. The question that I have, and obviously I'm sure you can tell it's Marco here. The question I have is, because I've been working with you through the process. I know that you went through, you actually kind of alluded to it in the video itself, but can you kind of talk about some of the major challenges that you had and how you eventually overcame them to come to the final idea that you have and the presentation that you created?
Well, one of the biggest challenges I ended up having was I couldn't figure out how to get the timer to actually work with the idea without it just seeming like a normal game playthrough. How it actually ended up coming together, it just kind of clicked in my mind that if this is how it looks, it'll look more than just what a normal game already does. But yeah, that was probably the biggest issue I was having, was just how do I make it look more than what we already see in video games today?
Awesome, thanks.
Any other comments or questions for Jocelyn?
So for this timing, is the timing going to be a static number or can it be dynamic? Meaning, can you assign a random number generator for the timing? And would it be a good idea to maybe work this number into the conversation so that the character appears agitated or frustrated? He or she would have a shorter number, whereas someone who's very lackadaisical or like a hippie one with the number could be big and you wouldn't have to be as strenuous at getting that. Would that be something, or have you thought about that? Making it a random number instead of just static. We're locking this number in.
I thought about the idea. I did not have time to try and work with creating a random number. But I also did think about the idea of that you mentioned of showing it different. If they're frustrated, there's less of a timer that was something I was thinking about with this, but again, was not one of the things I focused on when creating the prototype.
Yeah, it looks great.
Other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Jocelyn. Well done. Next, we have Philip Nugent, who is a game design, game art major, presenting virtually The Color of Gameplay.
Color is a wonderful thing. It can convey emotions or give meaning to something. In video games, we often try to mimic the real world to give information to the player about the environment they might be in. Or maybe we are trying to set a certain tone for the level. What we rarely do, though, is apply it as a mechanic and have the player use it to their advantage. My name is Philip Wynn, and this is the Color of Gameplay. In this project, we explore how to use color in many ways as a game mechanic. This is created using a game engine called Construct 3, a browser-based engine. Inside this prototype, there are various levels, each with a different motif and color associated with it. This is done to use as a means of storytelling. The main colors used in this demo will be green, red, and blue. Green meaning life, red meaning danger, and blue meaning peace. The first area, the green area, has trees aligned in a color wheel. The player can right-click while staring at a tree to collect its color. This allows them to attack with the color they just absorbed. They may absorb up to 3 different colors, each one combining to create a different color, as indicated in the bottom left. Enemies are only damaged by their complementary color, the color opposite to them on the color wheel. All the enemies are primary colors of light, which means we have to mix colors in order to defeat them. Each enemy is standing next to their complementary colored tree, and we must mix colors to defeat them. A red enemy would be defeated by a cyan gem, which is blue and green combined. A blue enemy would be defeated by a yellow gem, which is green and red combined. And a green enemy would be defeated by a pink gem, which is red and blue combined. Now that each enemy is defeated, a story is told through level design and color. We see that the level has changed from a lush forest to a burnt forest, from a plentiful and healthy green to a scary and dangerous red. There are now new enemies, a black enemy representing no color, and a white enemy representing too much color. They are defeated by their opposites. This means a black enemy is defeated by overwhelming color, or all colors absorbed, and a white enemy is defeated by no color, or no color absorbed. If we progress the level further, we can see a burning forest become calmed by the waters. The story is fully told through color and level transitions, as each area gives a different mood and sets a different tone. A full playthrough could look something like this. The first area is meant to get the player used to the mechanics, just 2 simple enemies. The next area has colored enemies with a full array of colored trees to help them determine how to properly defeat the enemies. In the red area, only the primary colored trees are available. This means blue, green, and red. This section is meant to make sure the player understands the mechanics rather than getting lucky. There is no longer full visual help. There are also 2 added enemies. Finally, the blue section. This area is meant to challenge the player as there are more enemies and it has become much more cramped, forcing them to space their movements. Each area changes in difficulty and plays into how we know progression works today. Slowly get the player acquainted with the basics, then ramp things up over time. The color mechanics still allow this basic design principle to work and does not disrupt the flow of gameplay. Every color in this project has a meaning and can be used by the player to come to a conclusion about the way the mechanics may work and to understand the story of the level. In this case, the player may recognize trees in a pattern and that the colors can be absorbed and shot back at enemies. They may also notice the level changes drastically in color, and with it, its tone. All these come together to create a new way to use color in video games as a main game mechanic.
Thank you, Philip. Questions or comments for Philip?
Philip, what is up, man? Good job. Just like with Jocelyn, I love seeing that process that took many semesters where you guys had your ideas and got to where you are now, the fruits of your labor, so to speak, and the polish on that is actually pretty awesome. And it's very rare to see the final prototypes to be that polished. To me, it almost starts looking like a finished game. So I guess the question is, and Adam's probably wanting to ask the same question, to be honest with you, because I know Adam, right? But he's just, it's like, do you have plans of actually going further with this and releasing the game? And if not, why the heck not?
I don't have plans for this specific game. I do want to do something outside of Construct, just because I don't really like the 2D space and working in that. I prefer the 3D environment and trying to polish that. So if I was to release something like this with the color mechanics involved, I'd do it in a 3D area.
Okay, do it.
Okay.
Philip Portillo, good to see you again, man. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's clear that you've been busy, you've been working. I wanted to compliment you on working in Construct and working in Pixar, even though you said you want to go with 3D. Kind of offensive. All right. So you've done a lot of concentration on gameplay, particularly with primary and secondary color schemes. Have you considered integrating additional color schemes like tertiary, triadic, things like that? And if so, how would that gameplay scenario work out?
You said additional color schemes? Like, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, additional color schemes. If you were to move this progresses further, have you kind of considered adding additional color schemes?
I could, but I would separate them into different levels. Like, one would have the primaries and secondaries, and then another level would have some different variation of colors, because that would be too much in one level, I feel. So
okay, do it.
He's getting homework already.
Yeah.
Professor Pike?
Philip, I don't know if you can hear me from back here, but I'm pretty loud. Have you thought about bosses that chameleon or that change their color throughout the fight so that you have to grab different colors in order to progress? It becomes kind of a puzzle. I think that would be kind of neat.
I think that would be kind of neat too. I haven't thought about it, but now I have, and I think I want to do that.
Raylan?
I don't know if this ever came up like you were developing this, but I know there's a team that also works with a lot of colors. I think it's called like Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. But where did you draw inspiration from, like from other color type games like that?
So originally, inspiration came from one of Markwitz's classes. He has an assignment where he makes you use color, and that's where it originally came from. But I was having a tough time, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit because color is pretty interesting to me, and working with that. So that's where original inspiration came from. Finding games that use color as a mechanic, like color mixing and complementary color, is very hard. A lot of games use color as an expression of emotion, so the environment will be colored a certain way to make you feel a certain way. So I drew inspiration from those games for the environment, but for mechanics overall, it was hard to find games with that specific thing.
We have a question from Professor Moore online.
Hello, were you able to do any sort of playtesting with colorblind players? My biggest concern with making color a core part of the mechanics is that that might actually make the game unplayable by several people.
I was not able to play test with colorblind people, unfortunately.
That's pretty.
One thing you programmed it, but you didn't explain it. How did the color wheel indicator in the bottom left-hand corner work? Because it looked really cool, and I was trying to figure out how it works, but you didn't talk about it. So could you talk about that real quick? You just spent time.
So the color wheel at the bottom has all the primary colors of light. So and it has the secondary colors as well. Whenever you copy a color, that color glows. It glows up, and then the crystal in the center goes from black if you had nothing to that color that you copied. So let's say you started with nothing and you copied the red tree. The red square would glow and you would get a red crystal. If you combined the two, both of those colors would glow, and then you'd get the combined color crystal, and the combined color would also glow.
And also points in that direction too, right? It orients on the wheel, the crystal goes up and down in the direction of the colors, right?
The crystal?
Yeah. Don't you get a crystal in the center of that wheel that points? And it
No.
Oh,
it is stationary, yeah.
It'd be really cool if it did that.
More homework. Philip, you have a lot of homework assignments.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Philip. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Novalie Maxon, who is a game design, game art major, presenting the Dream Journal.
Have you ever had a dream? Chances are is that you have. Some are amazing, while others are simply embarrassing. Whatever it is, begin to understand you, remember them, and document it with the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is an Android mobile app for those who like to document their dreams digitally and incorporate artistic expression, bridging the gap between journaling and drawing apps, all the while making artwork more attractive than ever with animation-like effects. Today, I'll be showing you this application inspired by my mother's dream journaling and how you can use it too. Most of these capabilities are secondary features like the search tool. This tool brings you, our user, to Google Scholar website to properly research what dreams are, why they occur, and so on. This website is perfect and provides reliable sources rather than blogs or opinion-based information. The journal icon allows the player to write a short description or memo. Perhaps the alien invasion or zombie apocalypse dream gave you some inspiration, and you just have to have it written down. The journal icon also allows new members who may not be prominent on drawing to have more of a written form that they can save and refer back to later. The last secondary feature is the library. Save all your drawings and written descriptions here to make sure you always have them on hand for when you want to take a step back and be in awe from your favorite drawing. Speaking of drawings, did I mention that this application bridges the gap between journaling and drawing through animation-like effects? Well, you are in for a treat. In our draw section, create cute and small doodles. In your alien invasion, the grass is purple, not green. When clicking on the settings button, we can see the variations of menus from the color picker to the layer system. Don't just make the grass simply purple. Animate it with the click of a button and choose a texture preset. That is much better. Let's talk about the pipeline and some of the main features on how my small team and I came to the creation of the search tool, journaling, library, and lastly, implementing animations into drawings. The beginning part of the pipeline process was quite simple. It often meant researching and figuring out what I wanted to do. That then transferred over into documentation of the product and a more in-depth explanations regarding its features and other appendices. While this was the most simplest part of the pipeline, it was also the most worrying. I had to go to several resources to find members who are willing to join me on this innovation claim. Because because I didn't understand programming. While I could have just learned the programming languages, it would have been something that put the project behind and would make things harder for me in the future. So I set my eyes on somebody who is skilled in C++ or C#, whoever could work in Unity as well. Luckily, I was able to find one, which was very essential to my project as most of my capabilities reside in design work and artwork. The middle part of the pipeline was the production itself. While I was finishing up documentation, he was working on creating core and main functionalities and/or features that made the product unique. Once he was finished, I would then playtest it, give him feedback, and we would edit it from there. When I was done with my design work, I was then able to move on to art and creating art assets. I usually used Crypt, which is a free drawing application that works amazing just like Photoshop. After I finished these assets, I would usually save a PDS version and then a PNG, which would then be later implemented into Unity. All of these assets, including presentations, documentation, and everything else that came with the project, was then placed into Google Drive for storage. All assets completed would then be implemented into Unity. This wouldn't be possible, of course, for both my programmer and I to work on it without GitHub. GitHub is the control source or the project holder in which both he and I could work on it at the same time, making the pipeline more efficient. Lastly, I just had to finish up documentation, put everything into a website, and made sure that everything was ready to go and polished. I also went through several rounds of feedback that gave me some ideas on how to improve for the future. The best part is that everything is beginner friendly and anyone can use it. Now you get the picture. Welcome to the Dream Journal. What are you waiting for? Hello everyone, my name is Nolia Maxon. I am both the lead and the creator for the Dream Journal. I'd like to give a special thanks to Alec Carter, my programmer. He is my teammate on this project and has made sure that all of these features are both applicable and possible before implementing them and creating them. So I'd like to give a special thanks to him, and I'd like to also thank you as well for watching this video. I'd also like to note this product is very close to being market ready. A lot of it's mostly polishing, player feedback, and simply adding more variations to tools like brushes and different animation types. After a couple of those are implemented, it's mostly just polish work. Thank you guys so much for watching, and that's all from me. See you later.
Well done, Nobly. Questions for Nobly? For Sportillo?
Nobly, you exist.
Thought the same thing.
Even the video I used to advertise.
Right,
Yes.
so I'm very familiar with the project. I really want to compliment you on the organization, the presentation. Awesome project. But I want to ask more along the lines of the teamwork that was created between you and Alec. Alec was a recent graduate. He was on his way to do some awesome things. Some way you suckered him to be in this project, right? How did you guys make it work? Talk a little bit about the communication that you guys had very early on of what the vision was for the project, the goals were. Any challenges you guys may have faced to get to the end results, and how do you guys create those solutions to the end result of this project?
Well, I would say just having a small team of two is very easy to communicate. And so we usually just talk through Discord and other things like that, where we just listen to each other's voices. But it was the difficult part about our communication was getting that idea, that innovation across in a way that he could understand and be able to implement it in his own way as well. So you have two different people, and one usually is the idea holder. You're going to have more of a struggle in understanding what exactly is this person's idea. What are they actually thinking? What are they wanting to communicate? And then so we often just talk for hours on Discord, just trying to make sure that all of us are on the same page and understood 100%.
Talented. So on your end, how did you manage your time? I mean, being a graduate and obviously trying to get your career going in the workforce and such. How were you able to manage that and obviously deliver Also, at any time we may have to hop on over.
I think it's simpler than you're making it out.
I've read a lot of cheap projects before, man. I don't know about all that.
I'm just so good.
I just honestly, I just dedicated some time out of my day, just like 1 or 2 hours a day or week, whenever I had free time. And I just worked on this project, I got did some the research on how to do like animations on like currently made drawings. Thought that was a unique idea. So I don't know, it's just a side project for me to work on. Awesome. Side project with time limit.
Other comments, questions? Mr. Anderson?
The game studio is my extra time right now.
That's what I said.
Started this project, it was much smaller than it is now. Every idea I think you have and every question that we can think of, you've already answered. My question for you today is, many of our interviewers have already begun developing a list of additions. Have you done that as well? Things that you haven't implemented that you know about.
Things I have implemented. That's a tough one. I don't think I implemented anything since I got the build ready and was able to work on the presentation, but I do have a couple more things that I actually want to add to the project. Like there's always more to think of, always more planned. And honestly, the idea is to just polish until I can't polish anymore. So.
Design's never finished, it's only abandoned. So
Yeah.
you just keep going with
Well, I
that.
had to abandon it.
Yeah, now I don't have a question because just like kind of like Lynn pointed out, I'm like sitting there, I got a couple questions, and they just answered it in the video, and I'm like, what the? That's typical Novely, right? Overdoes everything. And actually, I was just gonna say that I liked the video where you really went through the process, because I'm not sure out of all, I've been here 9 years, I don't think I've ever seen a SIP presentation go through that much of the actual build process, behind the scenes kind of stuff. So I did appreciate that as well. So good job for that as always.
Thank you.
Raymond?
I don't want to keep myself, but I thought of like sharp point up. That's pretty good. But, I'm always interested to see how these things come along. Like, where you just leave things and we're like trying to figure out something like right now, and then just like wait a second, what if this is pretty?
That's how you get work done. You can sleep and get the work done at the same time. That's how she does it. Yeah.
Do you mind rephrasing your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, basically, what is the inspiration?
The inspiration. Honestly, being an artist, like sometimes I'm part designer, sometimes I'm part artist, because it's both my things. But at my artist side, a lot of times this is something I want to share with other people. Like I know a lot of people who aren't really artistically inclined, and still might want to spend time with them or something. And so this is kind of one of those things I created just to share with people who don't actually do art, and in that case, I thought of Green Journal to bring a call to action. I thought of Green Journal and say, Mother, she used to always write in her journal like she had this dream, because all these dreams are so crazy and wild, and we practically make movies out of these things without detail there. And so I thought if I combine these two, combine both 2D animation and 3D animation alike in a platform that was beginner friendly, that so I guess that's where my inspiration.
Thank you very much, Novely. Well done. Okay, next we have James Nowandowski, who is a game art major, but he pitched his SIP to game design with his adaptive progression tree.
Imagine buying the newest, fresh off the market open world RPG with some of the hottest graphics, looking forward to the freedom of player choice and advancement. Finally, the character progression screen is available and... Please. Oh no, please don't make me go through this again.
What? It's just an ordinary... Oh my goodness!
Why is it so complicated? What does everything mean? What do I do to make my sword swinging do more swing? Hello, I'm James Odomsky. You may remember me in my major of game art and animation, but I decided to create a project within the realm of game design. For years, I've been a fan of the RPG genre, or role-playing game, from video games to tabletop games. While it's typical to see games have a system where each point of progression is static and the player gets what the developer decided upon, it has become more common to see a freeform approach. Trouble I've noticed is that, even with tutorials, games start feeling like they aren't transparent enough about their freeform system. This can be difficult for people starting out in the RPG genre, but then, what about those players who have experience? What if experienced players want to mix and match based on what they do in game? My solution for this problem is called the Adaptive Progression Tree. This is a system meant for the RPG genre to assist players in both understanding and customizing a freeform character progression. Using blatant visual cues, it helps guide players in making sure their upgrade progression is on track, but also takes into account actions done in-game to provide a way for both new and experienced players to experiment with their progression and play as they prefer. Based heavily on the aspects of player choice and player experience, especially with the user interface, the Adaptive Progression Tree branches out upon each quote-unquote level up to provide a few options for a player to choose from. However, if the player uses certain types of actions between level ups, the system will add new options. Let's start with a simple example. Here the player decides to begin with the physical melee pack for level 1, preferring combat up close. Next to each button, aside from icons appropriate to the chosen playstyle, is a series of exclamation points. These denote the suggested paths for the player to take, and in this situation, there are no other options due to the player not having any external input beyond their initial choice. For now, the player is choosing to upgrade their offensive capabilities by selecting the appropriate button, noted here as physical melee offense. All the other buttons are now grayed out, and the selected path is emphasized. The exclamation points are gone. On the next level up sequence, the same process applies. Nothing notable has been done by the player, as the suggested paths are the same. So, the player wants to continue upgrading their offensive capabilities. After using some fire abilities often, there's a new button labeled Physical Melee Offense, Fire. This enhances both melee and fire damage for their build. However, there's no exclamation point. It's optional while the other buttons still have the same display. Curious about the new playstyle, they pick the Physical Melee Offense, Fire button. The progression tree now highlights this new path. At the next progression sequence, there is a notable change. 3 of the options are Physical Melee Defense, with a double exclamation mark. This warning serves to note some of the player's stats for the build are falling behind by a large degree, and since defenses are lacking in this case, the player may have trouble staying alive. Of course, they can still choose to increase their offense more and feel bold like the pro gamer they claim to be. Thankful.
Not when I shift into maximum overdrive. Hi-ya!
Thankfully, they decided to enhance their defenses to stay alive, as this progression mechanic very much suggested. The last decision of this example does not show any double exclamation marks. Every choice here is now integral to the build the player chose, including the new fire option from before. Although the player may want to further enhance their defenses, in the end, it's still the player's decision as they move on with this build in the future. How about a build that's a bit more complex? Using a style of play involving magic, the player begins at level 1 with a little bit of everything magical to experiment with. However, they're making a choice to specialize in an area of expertise and focusing on spells to enhance themselves and their allies, healing, using magical abilities in close combat range, or simply staying distant and casting offensive spells. The player here chooses to focus on casting offensive spells from a distance, a common playstyle with magic. From here on out, most of the choices will involve the magic combat style progression as selected here. As with the first example for progression tree, at this early level up they given a few basic choices to progress their build, opting to enhance their defenses. Having very few and very generic choices at the start is common for builds using this system. The next branch is created based on the player's use of healing magic during recent playtime. The healing path is added as an option for the player to choose from, and although not required to continue using healing spells, the player decides they want to experiment. This branch is updated to emphasize their decision. Due to a lack of player choice regarding offensive upgrades, there are now double exclamation marks indicating these are very much suggested to take. However, a third highly suggested button is now available called Magic Hybrid. It is specifically meant to enhance the build to adjust for both the magic combat and magic healing styles of play, this upgrade focusing on attack power and healing ability. Whichever path the player decides to pick up is still up to them. Although this progression system is meant for RPGs in video game format, it does not have to be restricted to single-player games alone. Two players can have similar decisions, but their individual progress can provide a fresher look at gameplay and display player autonomy. I look forward to the adaptive progression tree being able to spark ideas which resonate within both player choice and game developer intentions. Thank you for listening.
All right, James, questions or comments for James?
Bro. Bro, seriously, that was hilarious. Good job. I mean, like, okay. So first of all, I'm gonna call you out a little bit here. Call you out a little bit. You know, you were pushing the limit of acceptable time to turn in a homework assignment. And I was really worried how things were gonna turn out. And I'm just like, very impressed with what you were able to do in a short period of time. So I'm gonna give you a lot of credit for that. So, but ultimately speaking, I mean, we've you know, again, we've been through this process, and I know I'm assuming, did you start pitching like a game art one first and then move on to a game design one?
Yeah, originally I took 311 originally. I went with game art, then ended up going down to game design.
Okay, so why did you make that transition? Like in your mind, what were you thinking? How did that, you know, those decisions come about?
Well, I was trying to think about logically for a project. I was trying to figure out, okay, what would managing to do for a project, but also attain my interest as well. And I was going through the process of brainstorming all that. I realized, well, let's do it again, which is just like RPGs. I ended up just going on that path, which ended up overall being a game design path, since a lot of the basic functions of an RPG isn't so much the art aspect, it's more so the design function of the RPG.
Awesome. That was great, man. I'm impressed, seriously.
That's my question.
Nuance.
I thought that he switched over to game design. He got tired of understiller advice crap.
But that's like, that's out of the frying pan to the fire.
You know, but I do want to say one thing. My question. Dude, I love it. It's a very James-esque presentation. The timing, the amazing delivery, even getting into the end goal of what the project's about was nicely documented.
Yeah.
Other, Raylan?
I wanted to ask, I like the skill tree. Do you have any plans for any
Specific games, no, but I would like to take this idea eventually to maybe some other activities from part of that team, probably try and pitch that sometime. That's very sense with how they have it is now. It's more the basic functions of it, more so than a specific game. So it's not so much reliant on the game specifically it's being made for, but more so what can be done with it.
Professor Understood?
I'm going to do these gentlemen, James. James has this wonderful habit of taking deadlines, breaking down to the line, and then throwing a bomb on it and showing how great it is. So this is more of a common question. Also recognize your SIP that you really threw a bomb on it and you came through. So
We do have one more question online by Dr. Hugh Henry.
Yeah, this is actually coming from RJ in the chat. I'm stealing his question because it's such a good one that I wanted to know the answer as well. He just says that when you have those large trees that you're going through, like the Path of Exile one that you showed, players really get to plan ahead and think about what they want to do far in the future. Is there any way that players can kind of do any long-term planning using your system, since it's adaptive and changes as they go? What can they do to plan in the future?
One thing they can do is using examples of when I mentioned the reasonable probability example, they can adjust their own gameplay to what they prefer and start putting in on what they want to build it as. So say you want to do more fire stuff, they just hard go for those choices when they level up and just keep that steady pace. That's basically like how anyone would improve a skill in real life. They're just keep doing it over and over again. So they're just focused on based on their own choices and what they actually do.
That was your original idea, supposed to be like the adaptive point was the accessibility for people who don't know how to plan, that there would also still be a different system for the advanced users, but with that as well. Was that what your major idea was, or does your adaptive just work for everybody?
It's a mix of both for the most part, because even for the advanced user local, they can still more like the warnings and stuff keep going on, but that won't necessarily harm press them, but it'll keep your motor to say, oh, hey, you might want to do this. But again, they don't necessarily have to do that either if they know what they're doing, if they're confident in their gameplay skills. All right.
Thank you very much, James. We have an online student game art major, Carissa Rashi, who is presenting the Wolf Guardian.
The Metroidvania genre is one of the fastest growing genres in modern gaming. Its popularity is often attributed to its accessibility and characters, with which the player is able to grow and empower through exploration, backtracking, and discovery. The Wolf Guardian is a game that seamlessly blends the classic arcade fighter and Metroidvania genres. The player is given the freedom to explore the environment freely and unlock many secrets. Among these secrets are an array of totally unique, fighter-style movesets and abilities that will expand to overcome increasingly powerful foes over the course of the game.
As the young hero, Ashlyn O'Connor, learned to wield the wolf mask and master specialized movesets to conquer the great darkness of the Shadow Realm and overcome the adversaries within. Most games in the Metroidvania genre take a traditional approach to combat with only a few specialized moves, like slash combos or ground pounds. The Wolf Guardian explores the unique potential of the arcade fighter genre and playstyle to propel the player towards new discoveries and innovative puzzles. This unique playstyle enables the players to engage challenging opponents with advanced combat capabilities of their own.
Throughout the game, Ashlyn will add new abilities to her moveset, which will allow her to further explore the world around her as she unlocks new secrets and discovers new areas while overcoming increasingly powerful foes. To seal the darkness, she'll have to master an advanced moveset in conjunction with the magical wolf mask to challenge the diverse range of enemies that will push back with equally fierce fighting ability. In addition to simple light and heavy attack combos, Ashlyn will also be equipped with an impressive array of kicking abilities and sword attacks that she can combine with magical ranged attacks and aerial moves to perform catastrophic combos on her opponents. With the ability to transform into a wolf, the player will have the opportunity to explore the widest range of moves and fighting styles, switching between forms and weapons during combat to unleash the fullest power of the Wolf Guardian. As the player masters this advanced combat, they'll discover ways to overcome puzzles and obstacles that lead them to upgrades that will expand their moveset even more. With creatures ranging from giant spiders to bloodthirsty gnomes, the player will need to use every move at their disposal to fight off this great evil. Ashlyn will need to be vigilant if she's to stand a chance against the menace that's shrouding the world in darkness.
The world of the Wolf Guardian is covered in darkness, and this darkness influences all life that Ashlyn will encounter during her journey. Several classes of creatures exist in this world, including the fairy-style Unseelie Fae, the giant arachnids, and most notably, the Shadow Denizens, which are creatures that have been possessed by the great darkness of the Shadow Realm. The player's strategy will need to adapt to each creature class's unique style of combat if they plan to put an end to this overwhelming threat and fulfill their true calling as the Wolf Guardian. You may opt to keep your distance with ranged attacks with the menacing Redcap, as their large hands deal devastating blows in close-range combat. Alternatively, you may approach your opponent head-on if they are sensitive to sword combat like the giant arachnid creatures that lurk deep in the underground. All creatures in this world are designed to teach the player new strategies and fighting styles that will help prepare them for the extremely challenging boss creatures that exist throughout the world's diverse environments.
The Wolf Guardian is built in the Unity game engine and is easily launchable through a Windows executable. It solves problems previously seen in similar titles by offering fluid and seamless movement and allowing the player to change movement speed by simply holding or releasing the shift key to slow down for more precise combat or run to move quickly through the environment.
With these two entirely different genres combined, this game bridges the gap between two very different styles of player. Those who invest countless hours searching for every secret and special upgrade, and those who prefer arcade-like competitive experiences.
Most players will find something they like in the Wolf Guardian, whether it's the exploration of a sprawling game world or the challenge of mastering Ashlynn's enhanced moveset. We hope that you'll join us and Ashlynn as she overcomes this great evil and as we introduce a new way to play. Thank you.
I'm not sure, Carissa, are you joining us via Zoom?
Yes.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
For Carissa Portillo.
Yeah, Carissa and Ashton, I've always been a huge fan of this project. This project kind of came into fruition in the first semester that you guys took in GA 105. And even that prototype that you guys did in a matter of 5 weeks was super impressive. Since then, you guys take it into studio, and a lot of this has been kind of more self-managed. At this point now that you've been in the studio, you guys have taken on, a larger team, have taken on some leadership roles and such. So, Carissa, what are the main things that you have learned, as a leader, whether it's in art direction or style matching, or what are some challenges that you face, going into the leadership role in the studio?
Yeah, being a lead for a project, you kind of learn how so many people have so many different ideas, and some things that you haven't thought of before work really well in bridging some gaps that you've had, such as we've had a lot of problems with the programming because we're not really programmers per se. We're not doing that degree. So that was one of our biggest issues. But now that we have a team of that, they'll tell us all these things that we never thought of before and how to fix some of the major bugs we've been encountering. It's super easy. And then we've spent all this time on one thing and it turns into something completely different. As well as art direction, we've learned how to not only help people with their art, but more with style matching, which is really important for us. We need to make sure they're able to do that. And it's helping them as well as us work on our styles and what works best for the game. It's changed so much, the style of it, you can see that, and it's really good so far.
That looks great. I guess another question is, I know you guys moved from Construct into Unity. How has been that adaptation like? Any challenges there? You guys thought it was a good move?
Oh man, there's been some challenges moving to Unity. When we originally moved it because it's easier for people to work on the game if they don't have to buy the version that we're using of Construct. So it was better to move it to Unity and we could do more things in Unity. We spent, I think, a whole semester moving it and getting it integrated to where we wanted it to, and then adding a couple new things, and we got it implemented somehow very nicely in it. But it's been a real challenge doing that. And I think there are things that have improved in the game since we moved it over Unity.
I have played every game that was in your little demo there, except for yours. So, and I actually just beat Hollow Knight last week. So when is yours going to be released so I can buy it and play it?
We are hoping to get it to a viable point where we can actually get it pitched to a maybe I can't think of the word, sorry. Oh, what is it called? Sorry, I'm extremely ADHD.
I'm trying to let her figure it out.
Please say it.
We're still thinking a lot about that. We've thought about going the route of investors and all that, but we definitely want to get it to a point where we can at least market it in a way that it would look like what we would want the final prototype to look like. And yeah, publisher, maybe that's a word that we could use. Early access is a good idea. Derek Clark. Yeah, that's there's a lot of ideas we're coming up with for that. We our scope is kind of large, so I think we're trying to be realistic with how big we want the project to actually be before we start going the route of looking for publishers and investors and all that nonsense. So we're taking it slow. It's like a relationship, you gotta take it easy. We don't want to get too ambitious too quick. We don't want to kiss too early.
Well, let's stop taking it slow because I want to play it now.
Kickstarter, yeah. There you go. There's an idea.
Couldn't think of that. Try to think of.
All right.
Comments for Carissa or Ashton? Raylan?
Animation guy, I love Gears, so good job on the animation. Again, that was so good. always like seeing good. But I have a question about the art direction. I like where it's going. Is there like any more? I want to say I know there's like updated enemies that you guys are going through in the game videos. That was cool. Any more upcoming like art assets, updates, anything like that?
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of that coming up. So I've been leading the art, and Carissa's been doing some great art too on this project. And one thing that I've been wanting to update again, actually, is the tile map, and I want to add a lot to the tile map besides just grass and dirt and rocks. I think as we develop more zones and things like that for the game, we have these 5 zones that we have planned out, and we'll probably create unique environments for those. We've got a few very talented artists that aren't in studio or even at UAT that are helping us as well. And there's a lot we need to make, but we do have a lot of plans for that, and animations as well for the creatures, and we have a lot of combos and things we have to animate for Ashlyn, the protagonist. A lot of work to be done, but there's a lot in store for you. So I'm sure you'll see us around in studio if we get greenlit this coming semester. So thank you.
Yeah, just real quick with like fighting games like Street Fighter being kind of an inspiration here. Have you thought about PvP?
Ooh. Yeah, we kind of thought about that a little bit, but we want to make sure we work on the main game first. But we have an idea of having a mini game page with things you can like fight PvE or PvP, because we had it originally ideas for other characters, so they're there. We just need to work on the main game first.
Yeah.
That's understood.
Job well done. Again, privilege of watching you develop this project very well to you in the studio. And I just want to make comments that both of you have done a really tremendous job, not just with the project, but your team as leads. One of the best projects and leadership groups to come through the studio. I'm discounting anybody else, but they really have worked very hard.
I didn't hear a lot of that, and I don't think Krista did either, but it sounded nice. So thank you.
She was saying she loves our project.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lynn. We've been pouring our heart and soul into it, and there's a lot more work to be done. So I thank you for that.
All right. That's a really quick question. Can you give us an idea of how you're balancing your work life balance with this project and your team?
Oh yeah.
We're not. That's yeah.
Well, we have a kind of a system because we're co-leads. So there are some times where Ashton needs a break, or he's got big classes where I can take over, or sometimes when I have stuff I gotta do or things I have planned that he takes over more. But usually we're working like hand in hand, like working in little groups to make sure like these people are getting enough attention that they need in order to work on this project.
Good answer, Chris. That's what I want to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm grateful to have a co-lead too. It's been hell for me the past few weeks. So Chris has stepped up to the plate, and she's done a lot of good work for this project. So thanks to her and accolades to her. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashton and Carissa.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Next, we have another online student, a game art and animation major, Benjamin Unks, with Where Demons Live.
There are demons that live everywhere here in this world. However, there are some demons that are not as well known as they should be. The demons that I refer to are the ones that come into the minds of people with mental illness. Hi, my name is Benjamin Unext, and my project's title is Where My Demons Live. Everyone always has their general consensus of what a mental illness is and what all entails. However, that really only does scratch the surface of what a mental illness actually is. When I mention attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, what do you think of? Yes, you mainly think of hyper kind of person, hyperactivity, and has a short attention span. However, that is not all that goes into ADHD. My project aims to help shed some more light onto the subject of mental illness and show to the public that there is more that goes into one single mental illness. So for this project, I have created models and textures using Maya and Substance Painter, and I have imported them into Unity for the final presentation. The main goal of this project is to help inform the general public of the multitude of different symptoms that all go into having one single mental illness. Yes, it is a very ambitious project, but is one I feel needs to be shared with the world. It's like, for this presentation, I have created a creature that is to represent some of the basics of lesser known symptoms for ADHD. He's in and for this project, I personally do have mental illness, ADHD. So going through this project, I have learned a lot more about what I usually do day to day and how it's not actually necessarily what is the norm. Forward, this project is to go into deeper things, possibly depression, and into the fields of more psychological whole mental illnesses and stuff like that. They don't all have a single whole symptom. They are all a bundle of all sorts of symptoms that someone has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes it can possibly feel like they are fighting for their life. Now then, and this project is an ambitious one. However, I feel like it is something that the public needs. They need some sort of way to visualize more of what goes into a single mental illness and to help see how scary a day in the life is where your demons live are always inside of your mind. Thank you for your time.
Benjamin, are you joining us online via Zoom? Okay, any comments for Benjamin? Professor Kareem?
I think this is an awesome project. Obviously, mental health awareness is super important. I would love to hear what you get inspiration for some of those creations. Very detailed, very fascinating. There's obviously like a clear intent behind each of those like 4 figures. I would just love maybe another time catch me on campus, please let me know.
Are there comments? Professor Rathman?
I really like the symbolism of those 4 different symptoms guarding the shackled brain. I thought that was a very nice way to represent it.
Thank you. Other comments? All right, that was Benjamin. Next, we have Elijah Nutter, who is a game programming, game design major with split personalities.
Have you ever wanted to play something new and unique, not something with the same outline as other games? Hello, my name is Elijah Nutter, and my project is Split Personalities. My project is about taking a single-player game and making it where one player plays as the hero and the villain. Split Personalities lets the player play as two distinctly different characters with different skills and abilities. The hero helps people and works to learn who the killer is and catch them, while the villain can fight and kill different people, all while trying to evade capture. This is the logo that was created by Skylar Meyer and showcases both the characters, the good and the bad. And then she also created the concept art for the evil character and the good character, while Tiffany Roberts is working on the 3D models for the game, but they aren't complete yet, but they will be for the final game. Split Personalities is a game that is built in Unity. The elements that are telling you which character the player is are something for the prototype and won't be in the final game. Split Personalities is going to be a short game that can be played in one sitting. It's for any gamer that really wants to play, but mostly targeted for young adults to the adult range. The antagonist, who the player is now, can kill different enemies, these red guys, by interacting with them for now, and then the player can pick up different objects and different cubes, and then when the player looks at the inventory, they'll see 3 cubes that they picked up. But when the player switches to the protagonist, they'll see 3 spheres, the objects in the inventory, the objects that they picked up, changing from what they were to something new because of the character swap. The final game won't tell the player that they're playing as 2 different characters, and that'll be something that they will have to figure out playing the game throughout the course of the game. When switching characters from the protagonist to the antagonist, the world itself will change. So when the player is playing as the antagonist, the buildings are red, but when they're playing as the protagonist, they're blue, and this can work for static meshes and other objects in the game, basically changing the world depending on if the player is the protagonist or the antagonist. When the player walks up to the NPC as the protagonist, they will give positive interactions. They'll give a random positive interaction, and then when they switch characters to the antagonist, they will get random negative interactions. And then when the player is the protagonist and interacts with the NPC, they'll basically tell them, hey, there are these murders, go check them out, and those murders would have happened right where the antagonist killed the three characters. I plan on continuing to work on this project after this and releasing it on Steam. The game is different from other games because the player works against themselves so directly as 2 different distinct characters that make the game stand as its own thing. When the player reaches the scene of the crime, they notice 3 bodies, in the same places that the 3 other characters by the antagonist were killed. As the player switches characters, the world will change, so the area might not look exactly the same as it does now, but will be similar in nature. Keen-eyed players might notice the difference between the world that the antagonist sees and the world that the protagonist sees, and sees that they're kind of similar, and notice things, and then end up predicting before the final that they're the same character. The main innovation of the game is the design elements, but a lot of coding will also go into the game. This is the dialogue system and different things, the enemy controller, basically all simple stuff, the inventory, and then changing the object in the world, picking up items and interacting, player functions, all of that. And then in the game manager, I have it where it handles character swapping with the state machine, and the character swaps I use Unity events to basically call all the different codes throughout the game that needs to be changed based on the character swapping. Eventually the swapping is going to be automated and be kind of more hidden behind the scenes that the player won't really know based on different world events or trigger boxes or other things. I did all the code myself, from the movement to the inventory system. Ultimately, the purpose of the game is to create a unique and innovative experience for the player where they can play both as the antagonist and the protagonist against themselves and kind of learn and evolve. Split Personalities is that game that can provide a unique experience to new players or recurring gamers. It will give the player the opportunity to play something that they would not have played before. Split personalities plays off working against yourself in real life. Someone once said, "You act like it's you against the world, but it's really just you against yourself." This was Split Personalities, and thank you for your time.
All right, Elijah. Questions for Elijah or comments?
Is he online?
He is online.
All right, Elijah, good job. As always, again, you've done a lot of work this way. I know you say you plan on carrying this to Steam or something, whatever. Are you, because of your experience in production studio, you've worked on, I can't even, there's so many games. Like I just looked at your portfolio, your boards the other day. Do you plan on bringing this to production studios?
Maybe. I didn't think about that, but I definitely would consider it now.
Yeah, but especially with your history in production studios, leadership and stuff, I think that'd be awesome. The other question I have too, though, is with the actual switching. Right now, when you switch between the two personalities, is there, beyond just the world changing, does the player get to do it all the time? There's no restrictions. Is there time limits? Is there a reason for it? Does it happen automatically sometimes? How does that system kind of work?
Right now it's manual, but I'm eventually gonna make it automated and like kind of based off what the player like does. Like if the player does something that only the protagonist can do, the character will switch automatically, or based on like which area they go to.
Awesome.
Raylan?
I really like the concept of the game. I want to go into like the, I guess like the gameplay. But is it gonna be like more puzzle focused, or is it gonna be like more action and trying to figure out, or maybe like mystery? I just want to know like what direction is the gameplay going to take?
I'm gonna have like different kind of puzzles and stuff, and then probably some like combat and different like things to kind of like break it all up. So it's not like one thing of too much of one thing and a little bit of everything.
Press print.
I also think it's a super cool idea. I don't know anything, but I played that kind of implement this kind of mechanic. My question though, especially if you have this unique kind of protagonist antagonist perspective, like have you ever thought about the story that's going to go along with this game? You have an opportunity to really tell two unique stories that kind of intertwine.
Yeah, I've thought a little bit about the story, but it's really like light and not really that in depth, but kind of just have them working against each other. Basically, I kind of want one to be like an investigator kind of thing, maybe when like the other is like a serial killer, but not much more than that.
Awesome.
That's understood.
I think you also have a really cool game concept here. There's probably a lot of people like to come up with you. They might use on Friday morning. If you have mastered that.
There you go. Couple days, get it done. Come on.
Were you able to hear that, Elijah?
Not really.
That's why I was kind of like this, hoping Lynn would see like, Lynn's basically asking, she's basically saying that this Friday's production studio, right? Green light. You want to pitch it? Here's your opportunity. Let's do it. Go. Now.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll think about it.
Other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Elijah. This takes us to a 10-minute break from 1:50 to 2 o'clock. We'll continue with game when we come back from break. All right, everyone, welcome back from that short break. We are continuing our presentations in the game department with game art, game design, and game programming. Next, we have an online student, RJ Catterton, who is a game programming student presenting Stealth Perimeter.
Is your current occupation leaving a rotten taste in your mouth? Are you constantly dealing with thieves stealing money, jewels, or other valuables on your watch? Are you often left without a clue as to where you should be searching? Do you feel like there is a higher power at work that is setting you up for failure? Then you need to know about the stealth perimeter. Hi there, I'm RJ Catterton, and I am here to tell you all about how to catch those pesky thieves with the innovative new stealth perimeter. The stealth perimeter will provide you with everything you'll need to find the thief, recover the stolen artifacts, and get that promotion you've always wanted. You will be renowned for your accomplishments. You won't have to worry about another thief ever again. How does it work, you might ask? Well, the secret lies in a patented system that tracks the potential movements of the thief, so you'll always have an idea for where they could be. The area will even be updated as you investigate, painting the thief into a corner. Other systems cheat by always knowing where the thief is hiding. This is the equivalent of performance-enhancing drugs, a surefire way to lose your job. This revolutionary tool will highlight areas where the thief could be moving, so you'll always be one step ahead. It's time to dry your tears. Pick yourself back up, because the stealth perimeter has your back. But wait, that's not all. The stealth perimeter comes at no cost to you. No, really, it doesn't even cost you a dime. You don't even need to pay for the shipping. Talk to your employer today about the stealth perimeter, and never let another thief get away.
Oh hi, my name is RJ Catterton. I'm the programmer for the Stealth Perimeter. I had an absolute blast working on that video, and I had even more fun working on the project itself. I'm so very proud of how it all turned out, so I wanted to thank you all so much for checking this out. Have a good one.
RJ, are you able to join us online?
Yes, I am here.
Wonderful. Questions or comments? Mr. Marcus?
Yeah, of course I got one. That was freaking awesome. That reminds me of Derek Clark. He does this machinima thing where he has a little character talking at graduation. Whenever you guys graduate, you're going to see a little Star Wars thing, but it's much better than his. So that was, I mean, absolutely awesome. I mean, and again, the polish. I mean, I keep seeing, project to project. Wow, look at that polish. And then another one. It's like, holy geez. Again, I ask the same question, ask whatever. What is this? And what is your intention of taking this project to the next level? Because you already have like a commercial, you could probably just dump on Steam, and everybody be like, I want this. So, what is your idea?
First few steps are to add a few more features to the project, and then I want to put it onto a public GitHub that doesn't have some of the purchase assets that were used in that. And that way it can just be freely distributed. Another idea was to put it on the asset store as another free project, because it is, as the video explained, it is just a free thing that I want to put out there to give developers another tool they can use for their AI.
Okay, so it's meant to be a project that builds other games and not necessarily a game by itself.
Yeah, and that was one of the implications to the video. It had a lot of these inferences where the video itself is addressed to the guards because it's meant to augment existing AI systems to give them a tool that allows them to function better.
Awesome.
Any other comments or questions? Well done, RJ. Thank you. Next, we have another online student, George Couch, who's a game programmer with his peak gaming performance tracker.
Have you ever struggled to climb the ranked ladder in a video game? Maybe you even went out of your way to install several different coaching apps to help you get better, but you still didn't make any progress. Instead of spending hours every day trying to get better, have you considered that playing too much might be the main problem? What if you could capture just a time where you'll play at your best every day, so you can know when you'd have the best chance of winning? This program sets out to do exactly that. Hi, My name is George Couch, and I'm the creator of the Peak Gaming Performance Tracker. This program takes in data from games that you play, and then recommends time slots of when you should play based on when it believes that you'll perform at your best. This program captures your game data for League of Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, and Valorant. At the end of each match from any of these 3 games, a data entry will be created for that specific match. The data captured includes your kills, deaths, and assists, or KDA, the match outcome, the length of the match, the time of the day that you played, and the date that you played it on. A game ID is also added to the beginning of each data entry. This specifies which of the 3 games that the match took place in, and allows the program to distinguish between which data entries to analyze when generating time slots. The API that I'm using to gather data from these games is called Overwolf. Overwolf's platform is used to make mods for games as web applications that don't have to run in browsers. This gives my program the opportunity to use tools such as web local storage. Using this, I'm able to store all of the collected data entries as string value pairs, both permanently and reliably. From there, I'm able to convert each entry into local storage into elements that I can perform math on during the analysis phase. The greatest advantage that comes with Overwolf is that I can run my own code on top of the game events. These events come in as a stream, and it's up to my program to capture them. This allows me to make tallies of everything that is happening the instant that it happens. On the match end event, I use the data that I collected to create a data entry. Each game comes with its own challenges to be able to actually make this work, as none of them share the exact same event calls. However, this provides a lot of opportunity for going above and beyond. For example, with Rainbow Six, there's no way to get the match history or the match time for any of its users. My program is able to get the round start and round end events in Rainbow Six Siege and make a tally for all of the rounds to create a match time. More importantly, it's able to subvert the random loading screens in between, so it's exclusively the playable match time. To my knowledge, my program is the only one that has this feature for Rainbow Six Siege. Data collection has been made to work flawlessly across all 3 of these games. For example, you won't be able to jump into a custom game and get 100 kills to mess up your stats. The only data that is recorded are games that are either in competitive mode or a casual equivalent to that competitive mode. You also won't have to worry about things such as remakes being recorded due to having AFK players at the beginning of the game. These parameters ensure that your time recommendations will be tailored to exactly the competitive game modes that you want to get better at, all while not recording scenarios that are totally out of your control. It may also be that you perform your best at 9 AM on Valorant, but 5 PM on League of Legends. And because of this, you've been given different time frames for each game. To ensure even further accuracy, you'll have recommended time frames for each day of the week to help work around your real life. You may think that you play best sometime before or after work, but this will put all that superstition to rest because you'll have hard data to go off of instead. The recommended time is given based on that flow state lasts for about 2 hours. During those recommendations, you'll be at your highest likelihood to have maximum concentration. However, there are a few things humans can do to extend this. 2 very effective ways to do this are to drink more water and get more sleep. On days where you're taking care of yourself, you'll be able to confirm that you want a larger time frame. Each individual confirmation extends your time by 30 minutes for a total of 1 hour. This time will be added to the beginning and end of your time frame evenly. To create time frames from your data, this program uses an algorithm to attach associated weights with each game that you play. This analysis is performed every time you complete a match or enter your biometrics. The game weight is calculated by using your KDA as a default weight, then adding or subtracting weight depending on whether you won the match, and finally adding and subtracting weight depending on if you completed the match faster or slower than usual. This part is done by getting an average of all your matches from the game that's being analyzed. The time frame given to you will be skewed toward data entries with higher weights and does so by taking an average of all of the weights recorded. Checks are also put into place to ensure that your times won't fall outside of the day that the time is assigned to. The recorded data is kept for a month after each game, after which it'll be deleted automatically. This ensures that your data won't grow so large that your new games will have too little impact on your recommendations. You'll be able to constantly improve and leave the old you behind while doing so. Paying for coaching apps can often cost you a lot of money, and often these apps encourage you to play as often as possible. The Peak Gaming Performance Tracker seeks to remind gamers that less is more when it comes to climbing the ladder. Thank you.
George, are you joining us via Zoom?
Yes, I am. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome. Questions or comments for George? Professor Kareem.
As someone who has spent a lot of time on the ranked Valorant, ranked Overwatch ladder, I think this is a phenomenal idea. I love this idea. Especially during different, I can tell different days, I'll be different ages of people that I'm playing. So to know when I'm getting like the adults, when it's good, phenomenal. I love that. My question to you is, have you thought about maybe having some way to like share that data between people and maybe have like a version of this specifically for like the esports organizations, you know, so they can take it and they can figure out like the best time to get scrims is and that kind of stuff?
All right. As far as being able to share it, the only thing I haven't thought of esports implication. I mostly thought of like making a Discord bot to be able to output your results to your friends and such like that, and see if you can create matching times with your friends so that you can queue together within your recommended time frame.
Awesome. That's a great idea. I think that would be a great functionality. Great job.
We have a question by Professor Hugh Henry online.
Yeah, excellent project. Very well done. You built a prototype that utilizes 3 very popular games. How much work would you estimate it would be to add additional games to the system?
The only, so long as you're able to get the KDA time frame or time of the match, and then how long the game lasted, whether you won the match or not, you could relatively add it pretty easily, so long as it's supported by Overwolf. I believe most games are supported by Overwolf, but in the event of something like, I'm drawing a blank as so, Apex Legends. I had a bunch of people wanting me to add that, but that doesn't really work the same way as these games do. So I'd have to really go out of my way to basically invent a whole new system for something like Apex Legends, where you're not just fighting over an objective. Instead, in that game, you're fighting for an overall win. There's also things like there are differences between these 3 games. It acts as like a base where I can relatively understand how everyone is playing based on KDA and match time and stuff like that. But for example, in like League of Legends, you earn gold and stuff like that, and you use that gold to buy items. I would like to be able to look into those systems further to be able to get better accuracy within those.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Press Margaret.
So how complete is the project? Have you been able to actually get some play tests and get some of the actual, coaching results back?
Yes, this project is 100% complete, and I use this every day. I made the project because as something that I wanted to use for myself. So as I play, just passively in the background, every game that I play is collected, and it just boots up as soon as I boot up, say, League of Legends, it'll just boot up in the background along with it. I don't have to touch anything else from getting to that point after turning on my computer. And anyway, all that data is saved, and as I go into each game or I open it up manually, I can see all the time frames that are recommended to me.
Awesome. So most market ready. Just saying.
As it is right now, it is functional. It doesn't look very good, as you probably saw, but it is able to be used.
That's still awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Professor Kareem.
Really quick, you should think about joining the esports club.
Sure.
All right, George, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that concludes the game design, game art, and game programming majors. Now we're moving on to cyber. We have our student Monte Gaultier, who's a network security major with Deep Lens Weapons Track.
In the last 50 years, there have been around 200 incidents involving the discharge of a firearm on school property. This has led to about 640 people losing their lives for no reason. What if we could prevent just one of those incidents? Maybe even stop the shooter before they step on the property. Hello, my name is Monty Gaultier, and my student innovation project is called Deep Lens Weapon Tracker. My project is an easy-to-use, modified software that takes the video images from the deep lens camera and recognizes if a firearm is in frame or not. The physical camera that I decided to use is called an AWS deep lens camera. This device came out in 2019 and allows the users to work with Amazon's AI learning systems. After my professor recommended an article about a man that was able to train his deep lens to recognize hot dogs, I realized that I could do something with this technology. After purchasing a deep lens of my own, I was able to create an account with AWS, Amazon Web Services, to start looking over the tools that I was able to use. With a lot of research about the various templates and services offered, I was able to change the hot dog detection software into a weapon detection software. The primary change that was made to the code behind this software was the file system that determines what the program is able to recognize. By adding a large photo album of different weapons with various attachments, I was able to create my deep lens weapon tracker. As you can see, the bar on the left is red, and that indicates that there is no gun present. I was able to hold my deep lens in front of different pictures of firearms, and the green bar on the left indicates that there is a weapon in frame. This software could be implemented in a few ways that would really speed up response time and truly slow down the intruder. If someone with a firearm were to walk onto campus, students and staff could be subscribed to a notification system that lets everyone know at once that someone has stepped on the campus with a weapon. If the same situation were to happen at an elementary, middle, or high school facility, staff would be notified, and it could be set up to instantly lock doors that could slow down the intruder. This technology wouldn't just be good for schools, but it could be used in a variety of ways, such as businesses, gas stations, and banks. Anywhere that really has the potential of being robbed would have a use of this technology. As of now, security cameras are everywhere in today's world, and they are always watching. This project is innovative because it changes the primary purpose of the security camera. Instead of just watching what happens, the security camera itself can get involved and do something. Now, why should we care? The biggest reason would be because it offers another level of security that isn't being offered at this time. Would you feel better if you sent your child to a school with a weapon detection system or one with normal cameras? Since 2009, at least 177 American schools have experienced a shooting. As the years have passed, the number of incidents have only multiplied. Would you, as a student, teacher, or faculty member, feel better if my device was installed on your campus? Thank you for listening.
Monte, questions for Monte? Professor Prager?
So this is great. What's the, so two questions. First of all, what's the minimum size that the weapon has to be in order to be detected? And then the second one is, part of the weapon is going to be covered. So if the weapon's a certain size, what's the percentage of the weapon that has to be visible for it to count?
It's about 60% of the weapon. I don't know if you saw like the first picture I saw, but it was just kind of like the butt and stock of the weapon. It's mainly those types of things like if there's a scope on it or
Okay. So it's 60%, and then the other one is if you've got a frame, the person could get distance out. So the other one is to get an idea if the whole weapon is visible, how far out can you notice them? And you might not have an answer to that.
Not at the moment. I don't have an answer to that. I have done it on pictures of like people holding the firearm or like covering parts of it.
Yep.
And it does recognize that it is a firearm like being held, but I haven't done it with like far away pictures.
I just when you do take it to market, and you definitely should, you definitely should do something like this. You'll want to say, this far out or whatever, so you can give them numbers so they know what to look out for. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Markman?
More of a comment than a question, but I love the fact you took some stupid, useless hot dog detection and then turned it into something infinitely useful. So that's awesome. Good job.
Oh, but that does come from the Silicon Valley. You guys See the Silicon Valley episode with the hot dog detector?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
The old show on HBO, Silicon Valley, they have a hot dog. Hilarious. We'll leave it at that.
Professor Bunce?
Good job, Monty. What were some of the obstacles that you overcame during this project?
Mainly the obstacles were pretty much just getting it to recognize the firearm. I know you helped me a little bit with it, but that was mainly the main problem, was finding the right file system to determine the weapon.
Two questions. What is the false positive rate that you've been getting with the program?
I couldn't really put a percentage on it, but I know like the more of a gun that is shown, like it's a lot higher.
Okay. And then you mentioned the possibility of having it automatically shut doors or lock them. How do you plan on getting around that? Like if someone authorized to, they comes in, like a cop comes, they're obviously not going to take off their gun just to go talk to a student in school.
So how I was going to set up is there can be a notification system that like is integrated into it. It could be set so that like the nearest police station would get an email of like the first picture of someone walking onto campus with that. And then it should probably have an override for the locks if it were to be set up like that.
Or just have it be an internal person front in the school can walk up to the inside and unlock it.
Yeah, I know most of them are key cards. So if they
Yeah,
have
they're key carded or whatever. Yeah.
We have a question by Dr. Greg Miles online.
Hey, Monty, great job. My camera crashed, so I'm just voice. Jeremy kind of asked my question already, so just really trying to get a feel for what level of effort there was to get that detection piece going when you're going from a hot dog to a weapon. You know, how did you overcome that obstacle?
It was mainly just like tons of testing and holding my deep lens in front of a ton of pictures of different weapons, trying to just figure out what it was actually trying to recognize before I was able to, you know, add more of the photos and all that stuff.
And where do you go from here? What do you want to do next with it?
I would like to make it a little bit more, I would like to bump up the 60% a little bit, but as of now, if someone had a deep lens of their own, they could set it up in their own house and use it that way. If someone were to, you know, for their own security system, but it would need a little bit more work before that goes to market.
Very cool. Great job.
We have another Professor Aaron Jones online with a question.
Hey, Monty. Were you able to figure out what the cost per detection was using the AWS stuff?
The cost per detection?
Yeah, so if you're I'm assuming you're throwing this through AWS's image verification. So for each time you send them an image, it costs X number of pennies or whatever. Do you know how much that is?
In the last 4 months, it's cost me about 8 cents.
8 cents? Okay, thank you.
I do have one comment for you, Monty. I think that because we're unfortunately experiencing this dilemma, is even if your percentage is only 60%, it's enough to make it half possible. And just approaching somebody with a suspicion of a weapon is enough. So I think a lot of people are looking for even beta versions of applications and systems that'll help minimize school shootings. So I don't know, personally, I don't think I would be that infatuated with the percentage if it's over 50, because that means it's a 50-50 chance versus 0. Thank you very much, Monty. That concludes network security, network engineering, and tech forensics. Next, we go to digital video with Colby McGregor with Idle Picture.
Hello everyone. Have you ever played an incremental game but wished you had more control over the upgrades? Well, my new game called Idle Picture fixes that. A video game themed around camera equipment and customization. An incremental game is an indie game defined by the primary feature of its strategy, leaving the game running by itself with minimum or zero player interaction. Idle games are very popular. Cookie Clicker has an average player base of 12,000 people. Yet with all these games, there aren't any that give you the ability to create and customize your own upgrades. Hello, I am Colby McGregor, and my project is called Idle Picture. Idle Picture will allow you to not only rename your upgrades, but to choose what they do and the picture that goes along with that upgrade. First, you start out the game with 0 pictures taken. After a few taps or clips, you can buy your first upgrade. These upgrades are your standard upgrades to get you through the game. After a short while, you can unlock your first picture upgrade. Firstly, it will ask for a name. Once you have chosen a suitable name, then it will have you choose what that upgrade will do. These upgrades will vary and can be further expanded upon in future updates. Lastly, it will have you select a picture of your liking. And there you go. You have customized your first upgrade. Like I mentioned previously, these upgrades can be expanded upon, such as giving your normal upgrades double or even triple the amount, allowing you to gain points offline or even allow you to get more points per clicks for each camera there is. Lastly, I'll add a way to import your own images into the game and use them as icons for the upgrades for limitless possibilities. This innovation allows you to express yourself in the game. Currently, I'm using GameMaker Studio 2 to develop the game. It is a good software from Yo-Yo Games and is easy to use and great for games like this. However, it is no longer available on Steam, and if any issues arise, I'll be switching and upgrading to GameMaker, which is the latest release, for free. With so many people still stuck inside their homes, either working or taking care of family, Idle Picture will be easy to pick up and put down, as well as an incredible way to express yourself. This is why the targeted audience is not only gamers, but for those who may have some spare time. Current games, such as Cookie Clicker, do not offer such customization for the upgrades as Idle Picture does. Thank you for your time. For those who are wondering, the game will be released for free around May of next year on Steam, Android, and iOS, in which it will get further updates.
All right, Colby, questions or comments for Colby? Okay, Professor Slater.
I like it. I base it on the fact that it's not something that I understand very well, but you made it understandable to me. And I think that it's an interesting innovation. Well done.
You play a lot of idle games? See where this comes from. Yeah, sometimes it's like people don't know the genre and you know the stuff that can be entailed and how and grossing it could be, even though you don't put a lot of action yourself. You know, sometimes in the beginning there's a lot of that. So you say it's going to be released in about a year. What else do you need to do to get it released to that point?
I would like to add a bit more upgrades to it. There's not that much I have. Mostly for the after it's released, I'm rather like continue supporting it. So I can have all the big upgrades like Cookie Clicker, which when you go and just overwhelming with all the different stuff you have to do.
Well, I mean, you can also consider taking it to production studios. You know, like at the Game May, we have production studios that mixes between different degrees. This obviously is a game, but we do, you know, we got Greenlight this weekend or this, Friday or whatever, and students can pitch ideas, and then we can have you actually be greenlit next semester and get the game worked on as well. So you can help, have other students help you on that project. Just throwing out there.
Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you very much, Kobe.
Hey, Depster, you got Adam online.
I'm sorry.
You got Adam, the question online.
Hello, Professor Moore. Sorry about that. Question for Colby.
Yes. So first I want to comment, that is a wonderful genre. It's one of my favorites. I'd say my favorite idle clicker game is Universal Paper Clips. And I think you're doing very well with this game. I was a little confused what the innovation was. Maybe I just missed it in the presentation. Is it the custom content or was it something else?
It's the ability to customize everything about the upgrades.
All right, very cool.
All right, thank you, Kobe. Next, we have Roman Sanchez, digital video major, presenting Right Way to Play.
Man, that movie last night was really bad. But why was it so bad? It had such a good start. Well, I guess I can't really do any better myself. But, I mean, if I tried, hey, why don't I try writing an A story? I mean, it could be a hit. All right, well, maybe I should go ahead and get this done. Step 1, write. I don't know how to write a story or how to write a script. Well, I definitely should have taken that scripting class when I had a chance. Wait, what is that? It's a controller, I see. Time to play some games. Hello, welcome to The Right Way to Play. This is essentially a story that guides the user through a series of stages and teaches them how to write a script. The intended audience is roughly 12 to 18-year-olds, or essentially anyone that is willing to break through into the writing industry or narrative design. While going through this video game, the user will encounter a various amount of platforming, puzzles, and a bunch of different questions and tests. There's going to be a lot of helpful tips along the way, as well as multiple choice questions and answers. And while they go through, they're going to be gathering knowledge and use them for various different stages. In the very beginning, they will go through one full category, such as what you saw before, which was the 1.1 heading, and they will gradually make their way up into the various amounts of categories within formatting an actual script. This prototype was created and designed to teach the user just the one specific stage at this very moment. A bunch of examples will be shown off so that the user can kind of take those and then go along with them and eventually turn them into an actual script as well. This prototype itself was inspired by me watching a bunch of different shows or playing a bunch of video games and not necessarily being too happy with the story. I don't know where I would have liked to start, but formatting a script and knowing how to do that is really, really helpful when it comes to getting those ideas onto paper. Learning something while playing video games might be painful, but it is sure worth it.
All right, Roman. Questions or comments for Roman?
Roman, oh man, I'll tell you what, I'd see probably some hands went up over there, but I didn't look, so I'm going to talk first. I've been working with Roman for so many years. This guy's like one of the most amazing game designers as well. And now he's like dual majoring, whatever. He had so many different ideas. You went through SIP with, I don't know if I've ever had a student go through so many ideas through their SIP or whatever. And they were all really good ideas. I mean, don't get me wrong. Roman's amazing at coming up with ideas. How was that process? I mean, you're here. You did it. This is so freaking awesome. Like, what was the process from all the way from the beginning till now for SIP?
It was a rough one, but it was good. I learned a lot. I kind of found what I knew and what I knew better. And once I just got that ball rolling, I just kind of went with it. And narrative design is something that I really caught a passion for in the last couple of years. So I just decided to kind of expand on that.
It's like you're mixing all your passions together with the gaming. The game is so awesome. Man, good job.
Francis Lee.
I got it. Professor Mark, you're really impressed by what you showed me the first time you showed me now. Wasn't sure how you were going to get it there. I can see a lot of application. It's certainly something I would recommend to students or something learning how to do it. Maybe they don't have time to take the class. It's a great way to get a good taste of reality. Good job. Really good job. Thank you.
Press Kareem.
Yes, awesome job from your video too. Was hilarious to watch, very entertaining. And me personally, I haven't seen much of these games, educational narrative games. I know amazing job, amazing job. My question is, I know you said in the video your target market is like 12 levels to 18, but I'd see like maybe you could add additional levels with more advanced content. Do you think this would be something for like universities or for even like industry professionals, like to keep refining their skills?
Jake's saying he wants to do it.
This isn't my industry. This is not my specialty. But
Yeah.
it's fascinating. Like I'm a complete beginner, and I can see I can learn a ton from it.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely has a possibility for like a beginner, intermediate, expert level. With that, there'd probably be different stages, and it would just have different either refreshers or starting you off in different ways to format a script, just to kind of, like you said, overcome these skills.
Awesome job.
Any other comments, questions? Oh, Dr. Brennan.
This area is totally new to me, of course. But just listening to what everybody else has said, and hearing how far you've come to get to this point, with all the ideas that you've looked at and either decided to use or not decided to use, as you reflect on where you came from, what's your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway was to not give up, essentially. Marco helped me out a lot when it came to game design. And when I kind of figured out that I wasn't really in the right area for myself at the moment, Professor Slater also kind of helped me out as well. And I used both of their advice to kind of just create something that shows kind of both from their focus.
All right, thank you, Roman.
Woo! I love you, Roman.
That concludes the presenters for digital video. We do have one more addition to the SIP showcase. We have Frances Caldwell, an AI major, and Maya Caldwell Escobar, who is an ACS major. Are you ready, ladies? Yes. They'll be presenting.
Have you ever been unmotivated to go to the gym? Or maybe you just don't have the time or energy to drive all the way there. Sometimes it's hard to have the self-discipline to make sure you show up every morning or night. Well, we have the solution for you by bringing the gym right to your pocket. Hello, everyone. My name is Frances Caldwell.
And my name is Mia Caldwell.
And this is our student innovation project, Fit Unison.
Fit Unison is a mobile application that uses object recognition to make sure that you stay on track with your workouts and fitness goals, while offering a unique gaming experience that encourages the player along the way.
The way that the app works is it provides you a workout plan based on information pertaining to you. It counts how much of a workout you've completed and analyzes whether you did the workout correctly based on aspects like form and fully completing an exercise.
Following each workout session, the player will get a summary of their overall progress and will be given the option to replay the same workout, exit, or start a new workout session. These overall statistics are displayed in-app. Lastly, it provides you with a meal plan that is adjusted to your needs, along with additional nutrition information.
Before jumping into the demo, we'd like to take a moment to elaborate on why we created Fit Unison.
As we all know, 2020 was a hard year with the rise of a global pandemic known as COVID-19. By the end of 2020, there were more than 1 million confirmed cases of COVID each day, and it hasn't slowed down much either. Most recently, the total confirmed cases in a day has reached an all-time high of 8 million in January 2022.
COVID largely affected the way we interact with others and complete our daily tasks, including going to the gym in fear that any of us could catch this deadly virus.
This app is a result of finding a solution to the challenges brought about from COVID-19, such as not being able to go to the gym during quarantine, not being able to afford a gym membership, and struggling to find motivation during such times.
We thought that by creating an application that would offer a gameplay-filled experience with incentives that would encourage players to revisit the app, we can make a difference in the way health and fitness is offered and received.
So how exactly does it work? The player will be able to choose from a list of workout sessions that target different muscle groups such as abs, arms, legs, etc. Each session will have different workouts and amounts of required reps per exercise. For this example, the user has been asked to do 10 push-ups.
Fit Unison's AI will then detect how many reps of push-ups they've done correctly in one set. It will proceed to count how many reps of each set they were able to complete, both overall and in terms of form. Finally, the user will be scored based on their curated summary.
Next are the analytics and nutrition pages. The analytics page gathers personal health data and in-game data to display a distinct UI that makes it as easy as the click of a button to view stats. It gives the user a sense of their overall health throughout their fitness journey. The nutrition page displays a curated meal plan based on the user's fitness goals that updates based on their stats over time.
We finally reached the fun part, a walkthrough and demo of the app running.
Upon opening the app, the user will be prompted to take a quick 5-question survey, which will gather the user's answers and generate a personalized summary of what they want in terms of their fitness goals.
Subsequently, the user will be taken to the nutrition page where their meal plan is provided. It's important to note that users will always have the option to retake the quiz if their fitness goals change.
I'm going to go ahead and press on this middle button, which will take me to a page that shows me what workouts are available for testing. For the sake of time, we've set up this 30-second full body workout demo.
As we can see, there is a timer that shows how much time is left of an exercise.
Now that I'm done, I've received scores with corresponding points received and an overall ranking created by the AI.
Now that there's data to display, we can navigate to the analytics page where we can see that she's completed 2% of her overall goal and shows her current weight, which realistically wouldn't be affected after a 30-second workout.
This last tab on the right is the settings page, which contains permissions that the user has to view their account information, toggle 1-minute breaks on and off, and so on.
And that is Fit Unison. While we already have an amazing product as it is, there are a few things we plan to implement in future versions of Fit Unison. One that we inevitably plan to implement is the ability to work out with friends. The incentive of the game is to get you to compete with your friends to see each other's progress. What's more fun than a little competition? And you know what's even better? You and your friend can encourage each other to work out together, so now you'll have more motivation to stay fit.
Going hand in hand with that feature, we plan to include a ranking system that displays each user's unique account and points, as well as players' stats from around the world in a top 10 order. We hope that with our student innovation project, Fit Unison, you can have more fun throughout your fitness journey while also saving time and money. Thank you for your time.
Questions or comments for Francis and Matt? Okay, Professor Craig.
Was that in the beginning? I saw a little section there that looked like it was on Google. Was that a screenshot or a mock-up? Because it's like, you know, was the app actually on the store, or you guys are still working on it?
Oh, that's a mock-up.
Oh,
yeah.
I say either way, it's awesome. I think you got to keep in mind that, you know, again, this is a nerd school, let's be honest, right? How many people are doing their exercises all the time? I think something like this would actually be really good, especially the leaderboard stuff, especially the working out with your friends things. I say that to students all the time about, it looks like you guys did the same thing where you do homework together with somebody else. It's more motivating, just like a workout buddy. I'll use that as an example. Now, literally, we got the workout buddy concept here. I think this is awesome. You guys carry with it and just keep going with it. Actually release it so we can see that instead of a mock-up, an actual screenshot.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Markwood. Mr. Prager?
So two quick questions. It looks great, first of all, it's fantastic. For the grade, when it gives you a grade, is that grade strictly based on the number of repetitions, or is that on a number of repetitions and the quality of the exercise?
So it's kind of doing both. It'll like see if you're doing the exercise right, and then it counts how many you did right, and then it calculates like kind of like an overall grade of how well you did the workout in total.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you do it perfect, but you only do like 3 out of the 5, then it's going to give you like a 70% or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas if you did it incorrectly, but you did 5 out of 5, it can give you that 70 or 60%. And then the second question, well, what AI are you using to do the detection?
So we use TensorFlow to like we had these images that we took of the workouts, and then we tested it live. We had to like label a lot of data and everything. It was a lot of fun because sometimes we would just have like the camera like while working out, and then every time I feel like the more data that we fed it, the better it got. Definitely. Yeah.
So the TensorFlow, so it was all on board. None of it was sending it off to the lab, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's even better.
Chris Spring?
Awesome job. I've been watching this throughout the semester. I'm so glad you guys stuck to it. I'm going to mimic what Marquis said. I'm so happy you mentioned the friends list to begin with. I think that's the gem of this app. I really do. Like, everyone likes to work out with friends, and kind of competing against your friends will make it that much more exciting. One thing I may have missed in our meetings throughout the semester is the whole nutrition element. I must have just totally. So can you guys speak to that? Like, was that hard to implement? Will that change with their workout routine, like their diet and stuff?
I would say it mostly, we planned on implementing a nutrition and calorie like page from the beginning, just so that we could have like, we could stick to what we initially planned, which is having an overall fitness app that would give like an overall general idea of somebody's health. And so Fit Unison is more than just like being fit and doing the exercises, but also like seeing the calculations and the numbers that could help people and assist them with their fitness journey. But
awesome. I think that's awesome. It's a great job, Chris.
Thank you. There's a comment online by Professor Moore. You can monetize with a subscription. Fitness and diet tracking apps with a good UI UX can do very well on the market. So yeah, comments on just how the viability of the idea of the product, just something that people are looking for to stay in shape. Raylan?
So it's not there anymore. So I've had to find new places to work out, but this seems like it's
definitely a good alternative. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see. There's 3 questions from Professor Hinton. There we go. This is one of the best user interfaces I have seen on a mobile app. Oh, there we go. How long did it take you to design the user interface, and what strategies did you use to come up with such a great UI?
I think we've been planning this app for about a year now, more than a year.
Yeah.
And we were initially thinking of something that would be innovative, but something that people would want, people would be interested in, something new. And so we figured that like putting it all together in one app would be a good idea. And then coming up with the UI was really fun. I feel like that was like a lot of our process, was definitely the pages, making sure that things looked good as well on top of the analytical aspects. But yeah, we've been working on the UI for more than a year. So
yeah. Raymond?
So we hope in the future, right now we've only tested on home workouts that don't require any like weights. But we hope in the future that we can implement weights so that like anybody, no matter what their goals are, like whether it's to bulk or whether it's to lose weight, like they can do whatever is more comfortable for them. So we hope that we can implement that in the future. Maybe with like a QR code implementation, so you can like take a picture of a QR code and then it'll know that you're working out with a certain workout equipment. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Something that I was going to add and you might want to consider is some type of question element that asks questions that identify the condition of the person exercising. Let's say that you have bad knees, then it'll avoid certain exercises that maybe put too much pressure on the knees. Just because some people do want to exercise, but you don't want to get injured. That's a big misconception. When you work out, it's all about form. And so I think that would be a nice addition just to keep people safe.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I'm always open to making accommodations for everybody.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the summer 2022 SIP showcase. Thank you everyone for being here. Remember to go to Socrative so that way you can vote for viewer's choice. All of the presentations are listed. Remember that the Zoom room name is SIP voting. And also we encourage everyone to join us here in the theater and via Zoom for the semester award ceremony Friday, August 19th at 10 a.m. So thank you again for all of your patience. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all of your hard work in presenting today. Have a good one.